Jesus is with you outside of your juicing.
Thank you. I had to sell my juicer for rent money. Um,
Oh, God. Hey everybody, your buddy Basil here, and you are listening to the Joyspiracy Theory. I'm just working on some new inflections. Somebody told me I sound exactly the same every episode. I disagree. Anyways, welcome to the show, everybody. If you're back and you're listening, welcome. If this is your first time, oh boy, welcome also, I guess. It's the simple answer to that. Glad everybody's here. We got a great conversation with Jen, a wonderful listener with just a compelling story. So you guys are going to really enjoy this. We talk about all sorts of things. I'm just going to leave it a surprise unless you read the description of this episode. But don't now because you're driving or you're doing dishes or you're running or you are just sitting and killing a few hours listening to this and not doing anything else. Anyways, thanks for everybody who is supporting the Patreon page. Thank you so much. We have a new Patreon supporter named Jennifer. Jennifer, you're the bomb. And send me an email with that info regarding your rewards. I'm calling you out on the show. So hi, Jennifer. So yeah, if you guys feel that this show is worthwhile to keep going in this world, you can go to patreon.com and go to search the Joyspiracy Theory, and we've got all sorts of cool rewards there. Well, we've got a few, and also if you sign up in any amount, you get, well, I think it's $5. I think it's $5. You get bonus episodes that are coming out. We got some more coming out, so get ready for that. Okay, yep, I've got a video playing right in front of me of young ladies doing backflips on roller skates, so now I have that to deal with, and in considering my own athletic ability. But that's okay, you know, I got other things going for me. Yeah. All right. Well, before we get into the episode here, make sure to go like the Facebook page, search the Joyspiracy Theory. Also, what else? There's something else. Oh, I forgot it. I guess I'll just do it in the ending, I guess. Because you'll have to wait till the end to hear whatever the heck I just forgot. But this is kind of a doozy, kind of a long one. I left it long, didn't do a whole lot of editing, but I think it was worth it. A great conversation. So you might get to listen to it for a few days in a row, which is totally worth it. All right, so let's get into it. As in many of the episodes out recently, you know, kind of some sensitive matters. So if you got kids listening, you know, keep that in mind. Hey, but I ain't the parent.
Hello.
How are you, Jen?
I'm excellent. And yourself?
Good. We've just been through the journey of figuring out the technical difficulties, but we made it together through the power of teamwork.
We did. It makes the dream work.
Yeah.
And I figured out the microphone.
Oh, did you?
I did.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds clear as a bell.
Sweet.
You're a microphone champion.
Yes, I am.
So how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm a little tired. I didn't get my nap in today, so.
Well, okay, so we'll hang up. I'm going to set my alarm for 47 minutes from now, and then I'll see you at that time.
That's okay.
Oh, okay. All right. If you think you can do it, that's okay.
I think I'll power through.
I'm
good.
definitely not one to get in the way of somebody's nap. Before we get started, what are you grateful for today, Jen?
At the risk of sounding super contrived, I'm really grateful for Joyspiracy Theory.
I love that. I too am thankful for Joyspiracy Theory. Tell me why.
And I'm thankful that you're obedient to God and the new format of Joyspiracy Theory, because I think people's testimonies are so important, and the Bible even says the enemy is defeated by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimonies. And so we get to be joint warriors with Jesus just
Amen.
through our stories.
Amen, sister. I know I've said it before and I'll say it again. it's been one of the most rewarding experiences, kind of switching over to this new format. And the numbers as far as downloads and listens go, it's fluctuated. I won't say it's even less or maybe more at this point. It's definitely gone up and down, but hey, I figured I'm just gonna do what I'm told, and it's gonna work out that way.
It will. It absolutely will.
Amen. You know what? You're gonna hate me for saying this. Do you want to try switching your microphone back again? Because I am getting a slight.
Totally.
I'm getting a very slight distortion.
Okay.
Okay, we'll just try it out. We're doing it live. This is how we roll. And
exactly.
We'll let the audience decide. Everybody vote.
They can call in,
Call in. Don't call me. I'll give you Gonza's number. You tell him.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, I switched back.
Okay, all right. It's not bad. It's kind of a trade-off, a little bit more of an echo. I can't decide, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to stay here for like a half hour, and then we'll switch back. We'll just switch back like 4 times, and then
I like it.
We'll either decide or, this is really experimental audio, radio progressiveness we're practicing here, so.
Totally.
We'll figure it out. We're breaking ground. All right. So that's awesome. I'm very happy to hear that. It's nice to know that there are listeners who stuck around, not in spite of the new format, but are actually happy about it.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I love all the famous people, if you will, but they have a platform. Like, they have places they can talk, and us regular people, we don't. So
there you go.
It's awesome.
Plus, I don't get any kickbacks from selling any of their books, so
that's a shame.
It's no skin off my nose.
There you go.
No, and we all know here that, especially on this program, we've got to learn that many of them are awesome people with awesome stories. But when it comes to that, hey, we all got something cool to talk about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's my point.
Uh-huh. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Where in the world are you?
I am in Dallas, which is pretty cool because the other reason why I'm thankful is I got to get connected with Jamie.
Really?
Yes, we're totally friends now.
That's awesome. Was it because of the show? Did you hear about him because of the show?
Yep. I was listening to the show and he said he was from Dallas, so I went to Facebook and messaged him. I was like, I hope this isn't super stocky, but I was just listening to your show and I want to come to some of your hangouts.
Whoa. That's awesome.
Yeah. And he was like, oh my God, you know who Basil is? I was like, totally. So we actually haven't met up yet, but we still are. We messaged back and forth. He told me his girlfriend got saved, which is awesome.
That is awesome. He let me know that. And I don't think he would mind if we just put that out there on this show now.
No, I already asked him if that was okay.
Oh, awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, he sent me a message. So yeah, there you go. Anybody who listened to the Jamie episode a few episodes ago, we've talked about his girlfriend who was curious, Christ curious, and has jumped in with both feet. So that's awesome. We're very happy to hear about that, and it's awesome to hear that you guys connected. So I don't know. That's kind of a weird moment. It's almost like when you may have like a significant other now, and then you have like an ex, and then they meet each other, and you're kind of worried about it. But no, you guys liked each other. I'm glad that Jamie and you are getting along. Now we're big one happy family.
Yeah, you're a bridge builder, Basil.
Building bridges, baby.
There you go.
Well, that's very cool. I'll have to send that guy a message. All right. Yeah, I'm always curious about, because we have people between all the shows we do, Canary Cry News Talk and Canary Cry Radio. Find them on iTunes, rate and review. There's bound to be somebody who listens to those shows who meet each other, but nobody tells us about it, so it's not as fun for us.
Yeah.
So
I will have to say, though, that DFW is a huge,
yes,
huge city. So we're still about an hour and a half away from each other, but still
it's
within
that big.
you can fit the state of Connecticut within the Metroplex.
What? That's crazy.
It's
That's
in,
like some dystopian like slave state stuff. That's crazy.
it could take you 2 hours without traffic to drive from one side to the other of Dallas Fort Worth.
That's insane.
No lie.
Wow. I'm not used to that. That's a little bit too hardcore for me. I've heard that Phoenix is the same way, but we're not here to talk about Phoenix.
No.
Yeah,
Who
no.
needs to talk about Phoenix?
All right, so you're a Texas girl.
Yeah.
A lot of Texas listeners I've noticed.
That's awesome.
I think, which is kind of funny, originally being a California boy, having seems to be the majority of the listeners are Texans.
You have a fan base in Texas.
I know. Now I know where I'll go if things go awry.
Absolutely. I have no fear that I can find some sort of like bug out site when the aliens show up. I'll just give Jamie a call and be like, yo, where are we meeting?
I'm assuming that if you're not careful, you'll just accidentally stumble into somebody's bunker walking around Texas.
I'm pretty sure my best friend's parents have one below their house.
Well,
they're just not telling anyone.
Yeah, you definitely need to find that out. But in all, you might have to trade some resources to get let in. Yes. Wow. Well, that's awesome. That's very, very cool. Howdy to all the Texans out there. I've been to Texas a few times. I actually don't know if I've revealed this before or if I should reveal this. Do it. If I change my mind, I'll just figure it out later. I actually used to show miniature horses. Yep. Uh-huh.
You're so lying.
Yeah, I'm totally not lying. That's absolutely true. I used to show miniature horses, and that's why I've been to Texas a few times.
I'm
not going to say anymore because the miniature horse scene is very small, and both literally and figuratively, and I don't want to give away too many hints.
Apparently, there's a big one. That's what they do over at the Skywatch with the mini horses and
Really?
Yeah.
That's weird that you knew that and I didn't.
They have a ministry out there where abused children can come and hang out with mini horses.
Oh, I gotta get hooked up with that. I could show them a thing or two.
I bet you could. I don't even know what to do with that information.
No, I can't even believe. I don't think I've ever said that on air before. So there you go. That'll go down. Whoever's doing. You know what? I'm surprised. I'm surprised there's no Basil Wikipedia page, because that would definitely make it onto the Wikipedia page.
Well, you know what? There's gonna be now.
Yeah.
Since you mentioned it, somebody's gonna make it.
I was gonna say I might have to actually put the call out there for somebody. I wonder if Gons have one. I can't have Gons have one and not me. All right, now I have to check. Here we go.
All right.
Wikipedia.com. I've already checked mine, so I already know there's not. Gonzo Chimera. No, he seems to pop up on a couple other things, but no. Okay, good. Well, I feel better about that. If there's one thing that I could ever hold over Gonza's head is that I have a Wikipedia page and he doesn't. So somebody get on that. Okay, so wow, this is quite the intro. I'm liking it. So okay, so you're from Texas, good old Texas.
Well, not originally.
Not okay. Where are you from?
I'm from Georgia.
Oh, the Peach State.
It is the Peach State.
I'm so glad I got that right. I was afraid.
I'm impressed.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are some real, like, I mean, if you think of America in the different kind of blocks of culture that exist, at least for an ignorant Californian, not to say that Texas and Georgia are the same or even too similar, but it's that kind of southern, more country type thing. Eh? No? Yes?
That was Canadian, but yeah, a little bit.
Okay, a little bit.
Atlanta and that. Well, I'm from Atlanta, so
Oh, okay. That's kind of
they're
a whole nother thing, huh?
yeah, they're very similar, Atlanta and Dallas, in culture and whatnot. But
Hmm.
Texas is it's its own state. It's got its own thing going on,
Yeah,
for
it
sure.
certainly does. And I know I'm just inviting some Texan wrath, even making a comparison. So Atlanta, did you hang out at the old Trump casinos?
No, I did not. But can you still hear me? I had to let my cat out of my room. She's
Yeah, I can hear you. It sounds like you're letting your
okay.
cat out of the room.
Yeah, I was.
Okay.
No, but interestingly, my parents met at the old Playboy Club.
Wow. Is there a cool story behind that, or is it more boring than we're all hoping?
It's kind of cool. My mom was there on a date, and my dad was there doing the sound for the club, and he met her and kind of stole her away from her date.
Well, yeah, somebody brought your mom to the Playboy Club on a date? That
I
seems
mean,
like the second she walked in the door, she was looking for somebody else to leave with.
it was the 60s,
Yeah, okay.
crazy
Yeah,
times.
she was a hip lady.
Totally. Still is.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Everybody I hear about in Texas is super hip, especially the older people. Um,
Yes.
okay, so and he was just working. He was just making that Skrilla, and then got a girlfriend out of it,
Absolutely. And then a wife
and then a
and four
wife.
children.
Wow, 4 children. All right, so you got 4 children. Now, were you raised in a church going home, or what was that like?
Well, yes. So I was raised in a Methodist church, but
Mm-hmm. Good old Methodists.
yeah, I don't do mornings well, so I'd always fall asleep
Yeah.
on my mom's lap during the service, and it was so boring.
Mm-hmm.
And so as soon as I got old enough, I started working in the nursery during the services. So
Just to escape.
just just to escape Sunday
Yeah.
morning service. Yeah, and I got paid and I got to hang out with babies.
That's
So it was
not
a win-win.
That's not a bad deal. I
No.
I definitely have known and still know people who get paid to go to church and escape into their work, as they say. So,
As they say.
yeah, so
Yes.
that's good. But there's nothing wrong with that. Hanging out with the babies. Babies got to be hung out with.
Yes.
Okay.
And so then I just kind of stopped going until I got into high school and started doing the youth group thing on Sunday
So
nights.
you stopped going, so like your parents weren't forcing you to go.
No,
Or you,
no. Once we like could consciously decide for ourselves, if we decided we didn't want to go, they didn't force us.
yeah. Now, here's a question for you. And just because I love hitting little things like this, do you think that was a good way to go? Because I personally was forced to go to church, and things have worked out pretty good for my parents in that regard. But I mean, you just hear of so many people who are like, no, I don't go to church anymore, not interested in any of that. I was forced to go forever. I hated it, and that I couldn't get out of it, and now I'll never go back.
So yes and no, because like you said, I wasn't forced to, so I didn't like develop this hatred of having to go.
Right.
But also, like, I'm not sure if 13-year-olds make the best decisions.
Valid point. Valid point.
um, but I did not like Sunday morning. I'd like to sleep in.
Right.
I never woke up for cartoons. I liked sleeping in. So when I was old enough to go to youth group, I opted to go back
Why
on
for?
Sunday nights. Why for?
What Sunday nights? That was the youth group time.
Yeah, that was youth group night, Sunday
Okay.
nights. Because it was the cool place to hang out.
And it's nighttime, so you don't have to wake up.
And it's nighttime.
But you did
Exactly.
still kind of choose to like go back into the fold. Was that a little bit because of the social aspect of it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
there was very little Jesus in the youth group. Like,
Whoa there.
I do not recall really talking a whole lot about Jesus. I
Okay.
mean, there's no like emphasis on a relationship with him. We opened the services with secular songs like Brown Eyed Girl. We never sang worship songs.
Was that a song that the youth were into at the time?
I don't know. I think it's just maybe the one that the dude could play.
Oh, so okay. For some reason, I was imagining just turning on the CD player and just like a bunch of kids jamming to Brown Eyed Girl in the weird upstairs room at the church.
No, no. I mean, it was still like acoustic live worship, but
And it may very well been because the guy just didn't learn any worship songs.
yes, absolutely.
Classic.
So there was definitely like I didn't have a relationship with Jesus at all whatsoever. So that time in youth group did not stick whatsoever.
Interesting.
And it was a pretty tumultuous household and growing up. So once I left, that was it for a very long time.
Right, right. Now, I could see, because I've been in youth ministry before, and I know for a fact we have some people who work with youth who listen, you know, it can be tempting sometimes to be like not very, what's the word I'm looking for? Just like play it cool and not try to like make it too scary for the youth group, not try to make it too, I don't know, too religious to turn people off, you know?
Yeah.
But it seems like they may have taken that philosophy a little bit too far.
And there's definitely some inappropriate behavior of maybe some of the counselors
Ooh.
having inappropriate relations with some of the older high school students. It just wasn't an awesome.
So it just wasn't working. Just the whole thing wasn't working.
And I'm sorry if my youth pastor hears this. He's actually a pastor of a pretty big church in
Sounds
Atlanta
like your
now.
youth pastor may need to hear this.
I know. He was such an amazing part at he was awesome, but yeah, it just didn't work well.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that gives me a better picture. I think I know everything I need to now. So
Yes.
yeah, so understandably that kind of turned you off to the whole thing.
Yeah,
All right.
pretty much.
All right.
Pretty much.
Gotcha.
I mean, there was in maybe my sophomore year, I think somebody tried to start a Christian group or club at our school. And that didn't work well either. It just didn't stick.
Yep.
Not enough attendance, if you will.
Yeah. And with school clubs, it's hard too, because really when it comes to clubs at school, I mean, it's not just a social thing. It's really like your identifier. And it can be, as a high school kid, it can be kind of nerve-wracking, like or even stigmatizing to have your like sole identifier to be like the Christian club kid. Especially when there's only like 3 other.
Right. And it was a new kid who had just started there, and our mascot was the Red Devils. So he felt like our high school needed Jesus for sure.
Oh, no.
It was called Druid Hills, not to give away too much information, but
Sure.
And we were the Red Devils.
Wow, that's yeah, okay. I mean, that's pretty heavy. And so this kid wanted to start the Christian club at the Druid Hills Red Devils Cemetery at high school.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, again, hey, it sounds like he had the conviction for it.
I tried. I mean, it's not like I didn't try.
Right.
I just had so much going against me.
Yeah, so Christian club, that didn't work out too much for you then.
Not at all.
No, okay. I
Yeah.
understand. I get it. Okay, so then what? That was high school?
Yeah.
Did you go to college?
I never even made it out of high school.
Whoa.
Yeah, total dropout.
Well, that's okay. Tell me about that. Was it because of the
Well,
Christian club?
it was not.
Okay.
It was a culmination of a lot of things that happened in my childhood that kind of I started making really bad decisions,
Oh,
like
that's don't worry.
like terrible.
This is a safe place.
So, essentially, lots of drinking, lots of drugs,
Mm-hmm.
and hanging out with some older kids at their dorms that
Their
I'd gone to high school.
dorms?
Their dorm rooms.
They were college kids?
They were college
You were a
kids,
high
but
school kid.
yes,
Do
I was
they
a.
do they even let high school kids like near there?
So it was a different kind of setup. They were for Georgia State,
Uh-huh.
and they turned the old Olympic Village dorms for the athletes into their college dorms.
Okay.
So essentially, it was just an apartment complex full of college kids
Oh boy.
with very little security.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because it wasn't on the campus. It was just its own thing with college kids running rampant.
And what grade were you when you found yourself in this den of thieves?
I was a junior.
All right.
It was the summer before my senior year.
So older, but not quite there.
Not at all.
Yeah. Okay.
So smoked some stuff, went and hung out with a friend of mine that I had a crush on, and he ended up raping me
Oh, geez.
violently.
Oh,
So,
geez.
yeah, it was. And the horrible thing, like, that wasn't the horrible thing, but a friend of ours had come to us and said he had done it to her a couple months prior, and we didn't believe her.
Oh,
We were like,
no.
there's no way he would do that.
Oh, no.
And so, yeah, so that happened, and that was the first time. So it was really traumatic.
Right. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm following now. Wow. And this was just a guy in your friend group, or?
Totally.
And
Hung
it-
out all the time.
And it wasn't now there. I mean, you use the word violent, and that certainly is a descriptor that separates it. Not that these things need to be separated, but that's a whole nother situation.
Yeah, I for sure had bruises.
Wow. That's
So,
horrible.
yeah, but you know what? God redeems everything, and I have forgiven him, and I'm good.
So I mean, this was before there was a lot of activism in this area. This was before there was a lot of the campaigns to sort of push for justice in this area.
Absolutely.
Was this something that eventually got settled, or
Not at all.
no?
No.
It's I mean, it's
Well, I was
sadly
so
too common
ashamed
that
because
way.
I wasn't sober, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So I blamed myself for just putting myself in the situation, you know?
Right.
So I carried that shame for years
Yeah.
and didn't tell anybody.
Nobody,
I did.
not even other people around you or anything like that?
Well, I went back down to my friend's dorm room. There was 4 of them living there, and the girl he had done it to came out and saw me crying on the couch and saw me and knew exactly what had happened,
Right.
like immediately. And so she, God bless her, started comforting me, and I was just like, I'm so sorry. And so she knew, but I I didn't say anything to anybody else.
Yeah, and I mean, this was really, even today we're having problems with educating people on what to do and bringing people to justice. And I imagine back then that it was even more, I mean, it wasn't even a conversation, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, my word against his. I had drugs in my system.
Right.
Like, you know, I did have the bruises, but those can be explained away too, if necessary, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So I'm sure that created a lot of emotional issues at a really important part of your life.
Yes. So I kind of just gave up at that point. Like, I made it halfway through my senior year, and I just woke up one day and I was like, I'm not going back. I'm done.
Just throw in the towel right there. Now,
absolutely.
I'm sure, were there other factors involved in making that decision? I mean, it seems like to come to a decision like that, it's life in general has to be looking pretty sour.
Yeah, home life was awful. My dad was a horrible alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
And it was I was the youngest, so I was the last one there, and it just was I hated being at home. I hated going to school. I hated just life in general.
Right.
And I'd already been hospitalized the year prior, 2 years prior, for trying to commit suicide. So I was like, that's not even really an option.
Oh, wow.
Like, I can't even get that right.
Okay. Yeah. It seemed like you skipped a step there in going through the story.
Yeah. I mean, there's a few, steps that I may have skipped.
Now, was there violence at home or?
Not, well, so when I was about 12, I was molested by a female family member, which I won't say because I don't think she has come to terms with it yet.
Yeah.
So, so there was that. And then there was just so much fear in the household with my dad drinking. He wasn't physical, but it was just
definitely unpleasant.
Yeah. I mean, yelled a lot, like, just had to tiptoe around the house as to not poke the bear.
Right.
And it was a really tense environment.
Yeah. Wow. Now I don't want to break the momentum here, but we are at a half hour. So let's try switching that microphone over, baby.
Oh, sweet.
Let's see what happens.
Doing it.
Boom.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Do it again. Yeah. All right. Let's stick with this for a little bit.
Okay. Let's do it.
Hope
Sounds
it
like a plan.
It could possibly just drive people nuts, but I'm going to try to follow my instincts on this one. Yeah.
Best format ever.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Okay. So, yeah. So needless to say, it seems like life had you in a place that was uncomfortable, and school was just another thing on top of this. And I'm sure school came with not only its own academic pressures, but I mean, how about socially? Were you popular in school?
Not at all.
Oh, geez. Oh, boy.
Oh, not at all. I was like the weird kid. I was when I first started, like at that school. I switched schools because they had a better orchestra, and I played cello. So total band kid and drama club kid, which at this school, which is hilarious because I was a cheerleader as well.
Right.
But we didn't have a football team.
But
we were so
you were a
small,
cheerleader with no football team? That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. This is like peanut butter without jelly.
Absolutely.
No wonder there was
met, and we cheered our little hearts out, even though we had no one to cheer for.
You cheerleaders with no one to cheer for? No.
Yes.
What?
And there was a marching band. We had it all.
What is this hellscape of a school you're going to?
I told you we were the Red Devils.
with no football team but a marching band. That is the most poetic thing I have ever heard in my life. Just the most melancholy snapshot of American high schools.
Well, it was a double A school, like so small, and
Yeah.
it was in a very liberal neighborhood in Atlanta, and it just wasn't well, I take that back. Our soccer team was incredible. Like we won state every year. We just nobody liked football.
Did you cheer for the soccer team?
No, we even suggested
What?
that, but it was a different season.
They had a team and they wouldn't even let you cheer for it?
No, because it was a different season, and there was competition cheerleading, which is totally different. Which is another funny story because I got banned from the cheerleading squad for the rest of my high school career
Uh-huh.
because I
At this
chose to
point,
play.
it doesn't surprise me, Jen.
I know. I was the rebel cheerleader.
Oh my
Totally.
gosh. Okay, so just because this is like a glitch in my worldview, what did being a cheerleader without a football team even entail? Is it just sounds like another social club?
Kinda. That yelled really loudly. Like we had no lockers
Just
to
alone,
decorate, just
in
out
the
on the
gym.
field by ourselves. Yeah. We practiced pyramids for no one.
Oh no.
I mean, I was even a flyer too, which is the person who gets tossed in the air.
So you're putting your life and body in the hands of high school girls flying in the air where is easily, I mean, that is mortal danger
Oh, we even
and for
had two
nothing.
guys on the team, not just women. We had guys on our
Yeah,
cheerleading
well,
team.
we all know why they were there. They didn't really care that there's no football team,
Not at all. No.
but wow. In fact, they may have actually been relieved, but I mean, that's okay. All right. I don't need to dwell too much on this, but
I'm
that might be the
sorry, I'm
most shocking
shattered.
thing I've ever heard in my history of podcasting.
I'm glad I could be of service.
And I podcast about the Illuminati and UFOs.
Speaking of, so that's kind of why I was a weird kid in high school,
Uh-huh.
because I was already into the Illuminati and UFOs
Oh, you were
by
an
that
early
time.
bloomer in that sense, for sure.
For sure. X-Files, man.
Now
X-Files.
here's the thing. Like, were you a real, like, believer and into, like, thought it was right? Because, hey, X-Files is a good show for the most part. And, I mean, we don't need to talk. We'll start our own X-Files fan cast if we need to really talk about the problems with that.
Can we really?
You
I'm
know,
kidding.
I could start an X-Files podcast, and also you could, but we would be a drop in the ocean of X-Files fan casts. But
Really? There's that many? Wow.
if
Who knew?
I'm being completely honest before you, the listeners, and God Himself, I'm just making that assumption.
I love it.
Yeah, but okay. Anyways, so
Okay.
you were super into this stuff super early. Now,
So yeah, a friend of mine had introduced me to Behold a Pale Horse, William Cooper, read it
okay,
cover to cover.
yeah.
So absolutely, like total UFO, believed it, like
Now,
fire in the sky.
Now, but
There
what year was this? The years is time zone.
95, because it's the year the Illuminati card game came out.
Yes. Okay. So this is a little bit before Zeitgeist then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because
Yeah.
Zeitgeist was huge when I was like in middle school or something. Or
When did that come out?
what?
When did that come out?
It had to be early 2000s,
Okay.
somewhere around there.
Yeah, so we're still in the 90s, like 95, 96.
Okay.
Totally played the Illuminati card game.
You played it?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I would love to get my hands on a copy of that game.
There are hundreds of dollars now.
I know.
Have you looked?
I have. I'm going to have to create an Amazon wish list. Actually, okay. No, I'm going to go way off topic. Remember what we're talking about.
Illuminati card game. Okay.
Yes. I
Yep.
may actually have to create an Amazon wish list or an eBay wish list or something, because I mentioned, and again, we have a few shows. I don't know what show I mentioned it on. I think it was Canary Cry News Talk. That Robot Jocks was my favorite movie. And somebody actually offered to purchase it for me, and I lost the email. And so if you're listening, please contact me again, because no, I do not have it yet. I would love to get my hands on it, but I'll also put the Illuminati card game out there for somebody.
I think it's like $600 on Amazon. But you might have one of those kooky listeners that just likes to bless people with stuff.
Hey, my whole life is predicated on kooky listeners who like to bless people.
I love it.
That's what pays the rent around here.
That's what your Patreon's for.
Yeah, exactly. Which, just a little plug for the Patreon. We are so very close to that $500 mark, and so we can start hitting those stretch goals, baby. Okay.
I've done my part. Have you done yours?
Oh, yeah. And Jen, I believe, now I don't want to call you out if this is not true. I think I saw an email that you actually increased your current thing.
So,
real?
I didn't. I increased it. I never. That's what I started with.
You increased it from 0.
Yes.
Good.
And yes. So I canceled my Amazon Prime and my Truth Frequency Radio subscription and my XM, because I feel so strongly about what you're doing and God's work.
I appreciate that so much, and that's quite a sacrifice. And I believe that those things are all also worth the money. But it means a lot that you think that. So thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, I work from home and never drive anywhere, so I didn't really need the XM.
I mean, who really needs XM nowadays anyways?
Right?
It's kind of passé. It's kind of sad. It never really made it as like the best option.
I agree. 100%.
Sorry, XM.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, well.
So the Illuminati card game, you actually played it.
Have you actually looked at some of the cards?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, there was a time, like a few years ago, where Illuminati card game, when people really started like putting it on blast, that my whole, pretty much the entire deck of cards in the Illuminati card game was on display on my Facebook feed 24/7.
So I just found this one today. It's pizza for the secret meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what?
I know.
What?
And for those, just so if anybody out there maybe is wondering what we're talking about, this is not a board game fan cast. This is the Illuminati board game, came out in 95, and
well, it was a card game like Magic the Gathering.
Yes, card game. And it is really eerie how it's predicted, like, well, if you got to kind of fill in a little bit of the blank spaces yourself. But I mean, there's cards that like look like Trump being president.
It's called the Trump card. Yeah. Enough is enough. It was your Trump card.
And it's everything. Like there's even I'm trying to just pull it up off the top of my head, so forgive me.
Well,
but wasn't
the
there like a
Twin
9/11 one that like there's one with the World Trade Towers.
Yeah, with one of them exploding, and then another one with the Pentagon on fire.
Yep.
And then 2 cards that went together, a tidal wave and a busted nuclear power plant.
Yep. It's crazy. It's crazy. Anyways, so that's what we're talking about.
We would actually play that for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That may date me a little, but
No, that's okay. Any way that I can learn a listener's age without directly asking them is a win on my part.
Yes.
Let me guess, actually.
Go ahead.
Are you going to be okay with that?
I am.
I've been pretty good at guessing so far. Let's see. Well, this is going to be easy because you said high school in 95-ish. So you're coming up on 40 or just slightly past?
Pushing 40.
Pushing 40. Okay, 38.
Pushing 40.
I'm going to say 38.
Well, I'll be 38 this year.
Okay, good.
Good call.
38,
Good call,
that was my
Basil.
instinct, but you always go with your instinct. All right.
Yes.
All right, so you're playing the game. That's awesome.
Playing the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're into it. You are now. Are you a believer? You like believe?
Absolutely, 100%
Okay.
sold. There is a New World Order, Illuminati. Like I've been seeing ghosts and demons my whole life since the first time I saw a demon, I was 4 years
Oh
old.
my gosh, we've
Oh, yeah.
skipped over so many things.
So much. Okay, here's the deal, and I apologize. My brain does not work in a linear manner
No, that's okay.
whatsoever, and so it just skips around a lot.
That's all right. This
So-
is already an experimental episode. We're switching the microphones around. We're jumping around. It's going to be like an episode. It's going to be like what's that show? Quantum Leap. We're just
Wow,
you just-
that went there.
you just got to put it all together later and try to figure it out.
Yes.
All right.
I like that movie Memento.
Yes, that's actually a better one. Yes,
Okay.
Memento. Okay, so I'm writing down demons 4 years old here, and moving on. So you're a full-on believer. You had experiences with the supernatural. Was this kind of like secular kind of conspiracy theorism, or was Jesus in there at all? I mean, you'd experienced demons. And here's another thing with the whole supernatural experience thing is, as time passes, I find that we find ourselves like justifying it more and more and kind of forgetting the reality of that experience. So,
Yeah,
was there a spiritual aspect to your waking up at the time?
not a Christian spiritual aspect.
Okay.
Like I believed in ghosts. I believed in I still believed in Jesus. I mean, I never stopped believing in Jesus. Like even at my worst, I was like, yeah, he's totally still the Son of God and my Lord and Savior. But I'm gonna go do some drugs now.
Oh,
so
okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I mean, hey, for some people, that's all you can ask. And I mean,
Exactly.
I consider anybody who, maintains that, maybe not relationships, not the right word, maybe per se, but maintains the Christ, the reality of Christ, even through all these sort of fun, youthful shenanigans.
Shenanigans is right. That's a great word for them.
All right. So, okay. But you didn't necessarily work Jesus into all of this.
Well, I couldn't figure out how.
Yeah. Okay.
Like it didn't make sense that there would be all these UFOs, but like, did Jesus create them? Is he their Lord and Savior? Like, how does that work?
Right.
And so I just kind of discounted Jesus for a while and just kind of put him on the back burner.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's used to it.
Absolutely. The poor guy.
I know. Poor Jesus.
I do. I feel bad for him sometimes.
Yeah.
Having to watch my life and he's just like massive face palm. Like seriously, I'm going to have to buy my guardian angel a drink when I get to heaven because he's been on overtime for years.
So you were moving through. I think we're all going to have to apologize for some things, some individuals up there. So, okay. All right. So you're making your way through life. You're waking. I'm assuming you had a buddy in this. You can't play the Illuminati card game yourself.
Right. My friend who introduced me to William Cooper.
Right.
And Behold a Pale Horse. Have you ever read it?
I have researched it, which is to say I've gone through passages. I've never read it all the way through, start to finish.
It's a rough read. It's not easy to read cover to cover, but
Yeah.
I was determined.
I've taken the tidbits.
What it is.
I got the Spark Notes.
You got I was gonna say Cliff Notes.
It's a different generation.
I know.
Oh man. All right. And so you woke up. I mean, I've heard we've talked to other people on this show about kind of waking up earlier in life to these sorts of things. And looking back, I can remember times when people were talking to me about things. I had a buddy who was really into the Zeitgeist documentaries, and he was telling me, kind of about the Illuminati and that sort of stuff. And it wasn't that I didn't believe, and I think this might actually just be a special brain that some people have, that it makes sense to them. I mean, it makes more sense than anything else that something funky is going on.
Absolutely. Like it, I can't explain it. So have you ever heard of the test strengths finders?
It's like a personality test type thing.
Yeah, and you take and it gives you your top 5 strengths.
Like everybody on the internet in my generation, I've taken about 40,000 million personality things and strength finders. So I am aware of the concept. I may or may not have taken the exact one you're talking about.
So I took mine, and my number 3 strength is connectedness. And I can connect seemingly arbitrary events and make sense of them. So I was just kind of screwed from the start.
Yeah.
Like that I had no option but to think in a conspiracy mindset.
Did this feed into your decision to drop out?
Yeah, I mean, it was just kind of like, what is the point of anything? Like, yeah. So
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think that's a place that so many people find themselves in. And I personally, and I've had non-believers, not just in Christ, but in conspiracy theories, be like, if you really believe this stuff, then, well, in particular conspiracy theories, and this was in particular the 2012 Olympics, when I thought they were definitely going to reveal aliens. It was a weird time.
It was a weird time in my life.
But it's like, well, if you really believe this, then I feel like you would do something, do something different. If you really believe that there's a secret cabal controlling the world and blah, 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 why aren't you going Rambo style and living off the grid and working every day of your life to take it down? And you have to figure it out. And that's even harder when you're a kid. And really the biggest option is drop out of school, drop out of the system.
The system. Which I did 100%.
Wow.
Because here comes the next big part of the story.
Okay. Whew. I'm ready.
Are you ready?
Give it to me.
So dropped out. Dad, oddly, was not super upset because he dropped out of high school in 10th grade. So he was like, okay, if you're not going to go to school, then you have to have a job. I'm like, done. I already have one. No problem. So I saved up, moved out of the house. That didn't work out because I was dating a dude, and he lived up in Athens, Georgia, which was about an hour away. And I lost my job, and I was like, you know what? I'm moving to Athens and totally going to become a stripper.
Of course, this is where this is going.
Of course it is. It's like, if that's all dudes or anybody wants me for anyway, might as well make some money from it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's an excuse. I'm not making light of anything here. It's just the way.
Neither am I whatsoever.
Okay. Good.
Yeah,
I want everybody to know that. That's just how we are on the show. If this is your first time, get used to it.
I can totally joke about it now because it's my story.
Okay, so good. And I can totally joke about it now because I'm on the other side of the internet and you can't reach me.
Touche.
Okay, so I mean, but yeah, unfortunately, unfortunately again, like so many girls who experience this sort of treatment from men, both sexually and even just emotionally. I'm sure that the the emotional or lack thereof attention, or even the negative energies from the alcoholism your father was experiencing contributed to this sort of thing. So you, again, just pulled the plug, going rogue.
Well, okay, so again, I missed another step. So
Of course.
when I first lost my job, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I decided to go become a waitress at one of the big strip clubs first. And
the gateway stripping.
that absolutely, it really, really is. But oddly, it's harder to be a waitress. It's harder to get a waitressing job than it is to become a stripper.
I was gonna say I've heard that. I don't think I've heard that though. I think that just makes sense.
It does, yeah. So, but of course, we have enough money around. They asked me if I'd, take my top off or whatever. And so I was like, $1,200? Yes, sir.
$1,200?
Yeah.
Wow.
In one night.
Wow.
So took the money, lived off of that for a little while, ended up breaking up with a dude. And out of spite, I was like, I'm moving to where you live. And so moved up there. My old roommate at the time was the door girl at one of the clubs. And she was like, oh yeah, just tell them you know me and they'll totally hook you up.
Let you on stage.
Stripper.
Yeah.
Like, that's not really a hookup. They'll let anyone get on stage.
Don't worry. Mention my name. They'll definitely let you take off your clothes.
For money.
For money.
So, 19 years old, taking my clothes off for money, and did that for 6 years. And I'd already gotten into the occult, like super huge. So like into the Illuminati, already, like, was it my 10th grade year? I had like an candle altar set up in my closet and just doing Wiccan spells with candles in my closet.
All while remembering that Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior.
Absolutely. Never lost it.
Us human beings are complicated creatures.
God, no kidding. But I had enough Jesus in me that it tethered me to something to keep me from completely going over the edge.
Right.
Into the abyss. And my mom's prayers. Oh my God, that woman is a saint. I wouldn't be alive without her prayers right now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure mother's prayers are the only reason a lot of us are even breathing.
Yes, I am a testimony to the power of a mother's prayers for sure. So, okay, where are we?
You just got into the occult stripper.
Pretty much.
Uh-huh.
Occult stripper. Like into tarot cards and going to psychics and crystals and all the new agey stuff, because I've always known that there's a spiritual realm. I just always have.
Right.
I've always known that there is something more than what we see.
Right.
So I always tried to tap into it, but I always knew. Like, I told my friend, she was my best friend at the time, she was one of the bartenders, I was like, there is a battle going on between God and Satan for my soul.
Wow.
Period. And I feel it. And I'm really scared that Satan's winning.
Wow. When did you say this? This was an actual conversation that you had?
Yeah. Sitting backstage, and
as an occult stripper, and you just had the discernment to think that maybe one side was a little bit more influential than the other.
Maybe just a little.
Yeah, you're very insightful.
Thank you. I always thought I was psychic.
I bet
always
you did.
Tried to cultivate those powers, if you will.
Yeah. You got at least that one right.
Right. Better than some.
There you go.
So there was another time, like, I was on a lot of LSD
Mm-hmm.
and I was in the backstage, and it was actually New Year's 2000. So it was the whole Y2K, the world's going to end, like the first time the world was going to end
Yeah.
in that time period. And the fireworks started going off, and I was like, oh my God, it's the bombs. It's happening.
The
Because
LSD and the conspiracy.
I
That's a
totally bought
dangerous
into the
combination.
Y2K. Oh, you have no idea. I mean, I started doing LSD in high school in 10th grade, like up in my bedroom with my parents asleep downstairs. Sorry, Mom.
And just
Um,
like just get
Sometimes by
real into the
myself.
Illuminati, taking acid by
Yes.
yourself. Yeah, no, hey, that's a dangerous combination. Um,
So dangerous.
you know what I was doing on Y2K while you were rolling on acid? I know that's not the correct terminology.
Not
I
at all,
I
but it's
get
okay.
I get people who correct me on my drug terminology. You were tripping on acid, right?
Yes.
That's
Very
right.
good. Yeah.
Um, I am so cool and current. Uh, Tripping on acid, thinking that World War III is starting. While you were doing that, this is great because I can tell you exactly what I was doing at that exact moment. I was orchestrating a group of middle schoolers to all stand at the light switches in the house of the New Year's Eve party I was at so we could turn off all the lights at 12 and make everybody think that Y2K happened.
That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. I was a little trouble.
You're,
I too
yeah.
was a little troublemaker.
Oh,
So that's
yeah.
fun. We found our common ground on
So,
Y2K.
so yeah, I run into the strip club. I
Hmm.
run into the back dressing room, and I'm freaking out. And one of the other dancers comes up to me and takes my hand, and her face shifts into that of a demon. And it said, "That's okay. Everything will be fine when I take over the world."
Oh
And
my
I
gosh.
just ran screaming
Oh
through
my
the club
gosh.
to the back room, and they were like, Jen. Well,
Oh,
I, was I Betty? They used my stage name. They were like, Betty, where are you going?
Betty? That's a great stage name.
I
You were
thought I
filled
was,
with not only were you an occult stripper, but you're an occult stripper with tasteful irony.
yes, I was super into Betty Page, into rockabilly,
Yeah.
yeah, so
Okay.
there you go.
So you're running and screaming.
They had to catch me before I ran out the back door.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so yeah, that was Y2K.
We've made it to Y2K.
Oh, just wait till we make it to 9/11.
Oh no.
This is the worst.
Did
This
Osama
is
bin
the
Laden appear
worst.
to you on
No.
acid?
Oh God, no.
Oh
No.
man.
But so I slept in that day,
Mm.
and I get a call from my best friend, and she's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm sleeping." She's like, "Have you not seen the news?" I said, "No, I don't have a TV." And she proceeded to explain what happened. I went to my next door neighbors, and he was like, "Oh yeah, our building got evacuated because I live downtown."
Wait,
And yeah,
you're where are you at this point?
I'm in Athens, but
Okay.
they found there was a white van that had been abandoned in front of the federal building in
Oh.
downtown Athens. So they evacuated like a half-mile radius,
Wow.
and nobody woke me up, just totally slept right through it. So find out what happened. I'm still dancing at this point. I called the strip club, supposed to be there at 4. I'm like, "Are we seriously going to be open tonight?"
Oh my gosh.
And I quote, Betty, Sandra, that was the owner, said, "If we close, the terrorists win."
Oh, oh my gosh. This is your national duty.
It is your national duty to show up
Oh
and get naked for money.
my
Because I'm pretty
gosh.
sure that's part of the reason why the terrorists bombed us in the first
Oh
place,
my gosh.
for American culture such as that.
Oh my gosh. Ah, that might be the most American thing I've ever heard. That's
Yeah.
that is
How can
incredible.
how can you argue with that logic?
Yeah, no, you're not getting out of that one. You cannot
Not.
call in sick on
Nope.
9/11.
Nope.
Wow.
Can't call in 9/11 on 9/11
And you girls might have been the only humans working in America that night.
at all. So
Wow.
go to work. A couple of the girls who had kids, they're like, we're not coming in. We're staying home with our families. Of course, they didn't get in trouble.
Yeah.
Um, and so they made us stay on rotation just just in case like a guy came in, there always had to be a girl on stage. And so I'm literally standing on stage, leaning against the stripper pole, watching a 96-inch TV with planes crashing into the World Trade Center.
Oh my gosh. And nobody was there.
And nobody was there. And then one dude did come in and he felt super sorry for us and like tipped us $20. But yeah, so I'm standing on stage crying. Like, I'm not even kidding. I'm crying because how can you not when you're witnessing this? And just in total
Oh
disbelief
my
of where I
gosh.
am and what is going on. And I went and sat down at the bar. And the first thing I said when I talked to one of the waitresses, I was like, this was an inside job, period.
Wow.
There is no way this could have happened without the Bush's knowledge. There's no way whatsoever.
This is an amazing story. That is incredible. And you knew
Instinctually.
you were there at work watching it on a giant television screen, forced to be standing on stage, and you just knew.
Because it's the first time I had seen the footage because I didn't have a TV. I didn't see it until I had gotten to work.
Yeah.
And there was no doubt in my mind that Bush was behind it, period. That he allowed it to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I didn't know the logistics or,
Yeah,
whatever,
sure.
but
Yeah,
I was like,
no.
that's not possible. What just happened
Gosh.
was not possible, period.
Wow. That is incredible. That's just soaking in over here. Excuse my silence.
I didn't mean to render you
You
silent.
did
Bad
it.
radio,
You
bad
you
radio.
broke my brain. That's outrageous. I mean, what kind did this instigate something in you? I mean, did you go back the next day? What do you do after that? What happens after that part of the movie?
You just keep going, like,
Or else the terrorists win.
or else the terrorists, yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's not like that's a job you can do terribly sober. So I just probably started drinking even more
Right.
than I already was and just doing more drugs. Because, I mean, what do you do when
Yeah.
when your life sucks, the world sucks, people suck, your government, everybody sucks? Like, sorry if I'm saying sucks too much, but
No, that's not a bad word.
okay.
At least I hope not, or else I'm in trouble.
Uh,
Now, here's something that I'm interested right now to hear about is I was pretty young when 9/11 happened, and the whole concept that it could have been an inside job, and I use those words, that was the language being used for me at the time. Like that didn't even reach me until years later. until, I was even old enough to really understand, and as a little Christian boy in America, definitely had not really heard about the Illuminati, at least in any sort of substantial sense. And really, I mean, I was right in the palm of their hands as far as inspiring the nationalism and encouraging the war in Iraq and that sort of thing. And it wasn't until years later that it even entered my world that it could have been different. What was it like in the early days? Like before Fahrenheit 9/11 came out, before any of that, like you knew this the day it happened that it was an inside job. Was there anyone else? Like, could you share that with anybody? Was anybody receptive to that? What was the deal?
The waitress was, she was pretty awake, and she was like, you're right. You're probably right. She hadn't thought about it yet. It took her aback, but she just kind of processed what I was saying
Right.
and agreed with me. Didn't really think it was a good thing to share with other people because nobody believed in the Illuminati. It's like, why would it be an inside job? What would Bush have to gain? What would, I was like,
And there was no evidence yet. There was
none. None. It was the day of. The dust literally had not settled yet.
And you didn't hear anybody talking about it? There was no Alex Jones shouting about it over the radio?
None whatsoever. I watched the footage and instantly, instinctually said that was an inside job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many people, because there's the engineers and the architects and the explosives experts and people who also say the second they saw it, they knew it wasn't what it seemed, and they knew. But it's interesting how, I mean, heck, let's add the stripper in Athens, Georgia into that too.
A dropout stripper in Athens, Georgia, no less. High school I had gotten my good enough diploma by then, my GED.
And so there were people who knew, but at the time there was no infrastructure for those people to be talking to each other. I mean, there was barely the internet.
Barely. I mean, there were barely cell phones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so most of the bouncers were ex-military, so they were like, let's kill those towel heads, blah, blah, blah. Those, their words, not mine.
Yeah, yeah.
And you couldn't reason with them.
Yeah.
Like, let's look at this logically. And they're like, I was over there. You don't know. And I'm like, you're absolutely right. You're right. Okay. You're right.
There's nothing you can do.
You just,
nothing you can
don't
say.
argue.
Yeah. Especially
because I have
when
no
there's
evidence other than my gut.
Yeah, I was going to say, especially when there's no body of evidence that you can actually. It's hard enough to convince somebody who's emotionally invested as a veteran who may have just come back from Desert Storm, I guess would have been the earliest thing before that.
Yep.
Or Kuwait, maybe. I don't know.
It would have been Desert Storm.
I'm trying to think if there was
it was Bush too, so
There's
it was
an operation after Desert Storm. Anyways, so I mean, it's hard enough when you have a well-crafted argument based around logic and documentation to even gain an inch with people that.
I witnessed a horrible argument just yesterday on Facebook with like both sides with evidence. And I mean, you still like with the Fahrenheit 9/11 and the loose changes and, all those
right.
You still can't convince people.
Yeah.
They don't want their worldview upset. It would shatter their very existence.
So what I see in your story, and I'm interested in this, is being kind of the emotions through all of this, and not just 9/11, but also maybe we can recap through the story so far. because, along with the stories, there's also our inner life of what's happening. And, you lived in this dichotomy of being an occult stripper, conspiracy theorist, but also always in the back of your mind, having Jesus as a reality, and then knowing about the darker, more sinister plots of the elites of this world and not being able to express that. What was the general vibe through this whole thing? I mean, frustration, I can definitely read at 9/11 and things like that. But were you able to cope with this, or do you think maybe this was adding to the fire of everything else horrible that had gone on, or did it give you structure? Did it make sense? Well, obviously it made sense, but did it feel better for it to make sense, or was it alienating? And one of these days I'll learn to stop putting words in people's mouths when I ask them a question.
To answer your question, yes.
Mm-hmm.
All of the above.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, my default setting is depression.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've just experienced depression my entire life.
Yeah.
And I used to say, oh, well, that's just how God made me. Like, well, no, he didn't.
Right.
But so just, I couldn't cope at all. I could not function in society without massive amounts of alcohol and drugs.
Yeah.
I couldn't function in society. I couldn't hold down a job other than stripping. I would try to quit and get another, I guess, real job, waiting tables or something, couldn't do it. Could not hold down a real job. No real significant other to speak of. If there was, it was not a good relationship.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it was just utter hopelessness and despair. And being suicidal doesn't necessarily mean wanting to kill yourself in that instant.
Yeah.
There can be a slow suicide where you're just slowly killing yourself.
Just pushing the nose down of the plane.
Putting yourself in situations that are completely dangerous and just killing yourself slowly.
Yeah.
Because you have zero desire to live.
Yeah. And that's where you were.
Absolutely. That's where I was.
For a long time, it sounds like.
Well, not well, but yeah, I mean, kind of into my 30s.
Yeah.
For a very, very long time. At least 10 to 12 years. At least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did that now? I want to be clear to everybody. I'm not under the impression that these sorts of things turn around quickly. I had somebody make a comment about how it seemed like I was looking for like some magical event in people's lives, and I know that's more often than not the way that it goes. So I mean, what does it take to pull the nose up in a situation like that?
Somebody else praying for me, because it was not happening on my own.
Right.
Whatsoever. Yeah. Like I honestly attribute my life to my mother's prayers and having her entire church praying for me.
Yeah. Wow.
Because it was not going to happen on my own.
Were you aware that they were like praying for you? Did you get calls from your mom like, love you, praying for you, got everybody praying for you? Because I could see how that in that condition would be infuriating.
No, I did. I mean, I isolated myself from my family because, I was just so ashamed.
Right.
Like, I couldn't have a conversation with my mom. What was I going to tell her? Yeah, I'm a cult, alcoholic, drug addicted stripper. What's new with you?
By the way, did you know Bush did 9/11?
BT does. It was an inside job. Oh, she knows now, and she's 71, and I woke her up, and wow.
Oh, I love those awake older ladies.
Yeah.
They're my favorite.
But it took her a hot minute, and she had that depression of just like, my entire life is a lie. Everything
Oh,
that I've ever been told was a lie. I'm
oh, is
like,
she free for an interview? Let's get her on here.
I know, right? Well, she's in the other room. We actually live together,
Oh, that's awesome.
and our two cats, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, okay, good. So you had the gang praying for you. What sort of, I mean,
Well,
how
she
did
would
it
send
happen?
me like birthday cards because I was actually born on her birthday.
Well, that's
And
fun.
so, yeah, God knows I'm terrible with dates. And so she would send me birthday cards with scripture. And of course, I would just like take the check and throw the card away. Even classic occult stripper move.
Oh man. Oh gosh, that's good. Okay. Yeah.
Um, so, but yeah, I mean, when we did talk, she's like, I'm praying for it. And yeah, it was absolutely infuriating. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
wanted nothing to do with that. Like,
Yeah.
the demons in me were angry,
Yeah.
and they would manifest themselves when I would get around her and she would try to touch me and pray for me. Like,
Wow.
straight up,
Like straight up manifestations.
straight up disassociated.
Uh-huh.
Like, I have no idea where that voice or those words came from
That is
whatsoever.
fascinating. Let me tell you this. Sorry, you just flipped the trigger here. So
Sorry.
this is.
Speaking of flipping the trigger, do we need to switch
Oh
over
yeah, let's
again?
try it out. Sorry, I lost
Okay.
track. Yeah, let's see. I'm sure this is gonna really bug some listeners, but
We'll get over it.
yeah, yeah.
Listeners, build a bridge and get over it.
I
Sorry,
honestly, I
I don't mean
wish.
to alienate your
Yeah,
listeners.
come on now.
Sorry.
Um, yeah,
Okay.
it's weird. As a professional podcaster for a long time, I'm having a real hard time choosing between these two options. Um, oh, what was I gonna say? Oh, it's interesting because and I've been open about this. I grew up in a more Pentecostal, more charismatic, more sort of experiential side of Christianity, and I thought that was normal for a long time until I realized that a lot of people didn't think it was normal. Oh, and didn't really. But so my whole life, I've been seeing this happen, this manifestation when a demon gets who's in somebody, it doesn't like what's going on. We colloquially call them growlers.
That absolutely. I was like, why did I just growl? I don't even know where that came from.
Wow,
What?
you might be the first person I can't believe I've never talked to somebody who has been on the other side of this experience. So tell me a little bit about it.
It's terrifying. And then you just drink more to forget
So
what's going
you
on.
said disassociation.
Like, yeah, like it's, it's like my mouth would move and stuff would come out and I'm aware of what's happening, but I'm not doing it.
Wow, that's crazy.
And just something takes over and it, I don't want to be like trite and say that, I'm seeing red, but there's definitely almost like a tunnel vision thing that happens,
Right.
where you just, you have no idea what's happening.
You're more of an
Some
observer of what's happening.
Absolutely. And so, which is what happened because I was actually raped more than once. And so the second time it happened, I learned how to disassociate myself
Oh,
from it
wow. Yeah.
and actually was physically, or not physically, but like I was looking down, watching it happen, like completely separate from it.
Holy moly.
So I,
So you mentioned having a supernatural experience as in seeing demons or beings as a child.
Yes.
And then it seems a series of events during your life. I mean, it's been a long con on you, it seems like, up until
Yeah,
the point we are in the story, at least.
absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
They've been working overtime on me.
Wow.
Like I said, I would try, but all the cards were stacked against me.
Yeah. Wow. And so we're at this point now where your mom is trying to lay hands on you, trying to pray for you, and you're what's called manifesting, for those who aren't familiar with sort of that side of the Christian experience, where the demon actually kind of takes over and lashes out, whether it's vocally or physically, and you're in this tunnel vision, and I mean
Curse words, F word.
Yep, getting
Yeah.
real rowdy. I mean, how many times do they try to do this? Do they try to bring you in for like an official deliverance or exorcism, as the Catholics may call it?
Well, what's interesting is that she was part of a deliverance ministry down in Florida when I went to visit her. What is that dude's name? Big time deliverance dude.
Big time.
He was on Ancient Aliens.
So you're talking about a pastor? Are you talking about like Russ Dizdar, somebody like that?
No, somebody like that.
Uh-huh.
But he has a huge like deliverance ministry where he casts out demons.
Right. I
can't remember his name.
I can't remember.
It'll come to me later.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so she's actually a part of that. So she knows what's going on.
Those deliverance ladies get at it, man.
But we were in public.
Oh boy.
And I don't think she was expecting it coming from her own daughter.
Right.
Wow,
that's gotta be.
And she was like, I think it really freaked her out.
Yeah.
Like she had seen things manifest before, but I don't think she had ever seen it manifest in her own daughter before. And I think it threw her for a loop for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely brings it to a whole nother level.
Yeah. Yeah. So she just stopped talking.
I can imagine. Like,
I mean, we were at a restaurant on the beach.
That's got to be a terrifying moment when you see your son or your daughter manifest like that. That's crazy.
Yeah. So.
Wow.
Sorry, I had to let my cat back in.
No, that's okay. I get it. I'm not even allowed to shut doors in my house.
I have to just because of my job. But yeah, she runs my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it. I understand. Okay. Wow. All right. So here we are. It's now open to your mother that there's something serious going on here.
So I think she and her friends go into overdrive.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. No, you probably had more church ladies praying for you than maybe anybody, any singular human for the next 48 hours.
Absolutely. And I think, was I living with her at the time? Because once I moved back from Athens back to Atlanta, things went really downhill from there.
Haywire.
Oh yeah.
So oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No.
Go ahead.
So I was just gonna say. So what's the next thing? I mean, I could sit here and talk all day, and I'm not that I'm rushing anything, but I'm curious of still how does this situation get pulled out of a nosedive like this?
Like, how do I get to Jesus?
Yeah, and please don't take that as an opportunity to skip any details because we've done enough of that.
I know.
But yeah, okay. All right, next one.
We are at an hour and a half though.
That's okay. You know, the list, everybody, I'm down. We started early. This is actually early for me. I know it's late for you, but I'm good to go.
I'm good. You just tell me when to quit.
Nah, we good.
Okay, cool.
Take us to the next step.
So moving back, we're rewinding from the demonic manifestations in Florida. So moved back from Athens, like my parents are divorced at this time, like horrible, terrible divorce. My mom almost dies from mercury poisoning, and she
What?
Yes. Yes.
All right. How did she almost die?
Can't really gloss over that one, can you?
Was this a malicious poisoning, or did she just fall? Did she crash into a thermometer factory?
Yes. No, just because she is from the generation where they made fillings out of mercury still.
Yeah.
So years of an abusive marriage and grinding her teeth and anxiety and, demon-possessed children, literally, she ground her teeth down and it slowly let the poison out into her system.
Smokes.
And so she started losing weight. Her hair started falling out. She went to doctors and they're like, oh, you're just depressed from the divorce. Here's some antidepressants. You'll be fine. And she's like, no, this isn't depression. And so she went and visited her sister in Florida and went to a holistic doctor. He did a hair strand test because he was like, these are signs of heavy metal poisoning.
Yeah.
And so he did a hair strand test. He's like, your mercury levels are off the charts. And had we not caught it, you would have had maybe 6 months to a year.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
All right. Wow. The stress was literally killing your mother.
Literally killing my mother. So then she had to go through the process of detoxing her system, removing all the fillings, getting them all replaced. So that was all while going through a horribly bitter divorce after 35 years of marriage.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. She has a pretty awesome testimony too.
Yeah. She's a fighter.
Yeah, she is. Tiny little thing, like 5 feet tall, but I wouldn't want to scrap with her.
All right. So after the mercury poisoning.
So she stays in Florida. I move back to Atlanta, start dancing down there. And
took the show on the road.
Totally. Well, actually, I almost did. I almost became a feature, but ironically, my tattoos saved me from becoming a feature porn star. Go figure.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, because at that time.
Is it a tattoo of Jesus wagging his finger, going, no, no, no?
No, no, no. Actually, the funny thing is that my first tattoo was a cross and a swallow with the word faith on it.
Ah, and they didn't like that.
They just didn't like tattoos in general. It was still at a time where they weren't terribly socially acceptable yet.
Sure.
Like now everybody has a sleeve or whatever, but they liked their strippers clean. I was actually told by my boss that I couldn't get any more. I was like, cool. And I just kept getting more. She fined me a couple of times. I'm like, that's cool. I'll just go get more. Keep giving you money.
Do you know how much I make doing this?
Do you think I care?
Okay, so after you avoided that fate.
Yes. So I moved to Florida, moved to Atlanta, started dancing there, which is a totally different beast in Atlanta, like small town Athens, college town compared to a giant city. And so things got a little hairy there. That's where I picked up the really, really bad coke problem dancing there.
Yeah.
Got way more into the occult, like just bad.
Yeah.
And picked up a boyfriend who was just awful. Tattoo artist, karaoke DJ, rock star, trifecta of evil.
Okay, classic Atlanta move.
Classic Atlanta stripper move. Yeah. So just things started to spiral down, down. Got to the point, I mean, this is like maybe 5 years of this, where it's just, I can't even believe how I had the motivation to get up every day.
Yeah.
So finally, I don't know what it was. I just was like, I can't do this anymore. And I started becoming really belligerent towards customers and like telling them to F off. And I actually, when it got to the point where I started owing money at the end of my shift, because you have to pay a shift fee and tip out the DJ and the bouncers. And so depending on the club, you're out like $75 as soon as you walk through the door.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't even make enough to
just because you
cover that.
You're just, nobody was tipping the angry girl.
Yeah, I just would sit at the corner of the bar playing the touchscreen video game system. What money I did make, I was buying my own drinks.
Right.
I always said that I was an amazing dancer, but I was never a really good stripper. And so just never, I always made my money off of conversation,
right,
more so.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, I didn't even want conversation. I was just like, leave me alone. Just angry.
Yeah,
angry.
You weren't playing to your strengths.
No, I wasn't. And so I quit and got a job at a hardware store. Natural progression.
Yeah, of course.
Of course. Classic occult stripper move. Getting a job at a hardware store.
Gonna go sell some rope.
Yes, pretty much. So I worked there for a little while, and mornings, not me and mornings, don't work together well. We're not friends. And so started dating another guy. If I go silent, I'm just trying to remember like the progression of events. Ended up
I guess getting a job at the hardware store could be considered the beginning of pulling up the nose of the plane.
Yeah, but then I quit there and got a job at a private club waiting tables that, like, it was a, den of drugs. And so it dipped back down a little bit.
Right.
Went back down.
It's not a steady progression.
So he and I ended up breaking up. No, we hadn't broken up yet. But I just felt like I needed to move to Florida. My mom's grandfather had been diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's, or my mom's dad, my grandfather.
Right.
And so I was like, I got to get out of here. I'm coming to Florida, Mom. Pull out the pull-out couch. I'm coming down. So I moved down there and found out my boyfriend, we didn't break up, but found out he had been cheating on me for quite some time. Skipped over a tiny little detail. Totally, like, year and a half into the relationship, totally got pregnant, totally had an abortion.
Oof.
That's what really put me into the downward spiral. Like, that's just, that was
to some that can be that can be the bottom of the barrel just about.
Oh no, you haven't hit rock bottom yet.
Oh, keep it going.
Yes. Oh, good times. I just want to say, anybody who's listening that may possibly support Planned Parenthood, go in one. There's two separate ones. There's one where you go get your birth control, and then there's the super secret one where they kill the babies that no one knows about.
Did you get an abortion at a Planned Parenthood?
I did. I did.
Yep. So there's that whole argument about how Planned Parenthood doesn't even do abortions.
Oh, no. Absolutely, they do.
Yeah.
And it is the most clinical, cold, demonic environment I may have ever been in, including the strip club.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
You go in. Do you mind if I go into detail?
No.
A little bit?
No, I'm sure people...
I just want people to know the reality of what goes down. And so you go in, they take you back, they force you to watch a sonogram of your baby you're about to kill. Then you go under, and then you wake up in a room lined with gurneys with about 10 women on each side crying and writhing around in pain.
Oh my god.
And that's what you wake up to.
They couldn't even put like some fake plants or something or some...
No. It's
Christmas
like no, I mean, yeah, it's like Christmas lights.
No, that's like a horror movie.
It is. Basil, you hit the nail on the head. It was like a scene out of like a terrible horror movie.
Yeah, it sounds like Saw or like some weird like kidney stealing like thing.
Except they steal and kill your babies.
Ugh.
Kidneys would be better, I think. And I'm not making light of the situation. Like, this is the reality.
Yeah. People
need to know the reality.
I find it interesting they put you under, though. I wasn't aware that was a part of the process.
Oh, yeah. They put you under. Well, now they just give you 2 pills and bing, bam, boom, dead baby.
Right.
Yeah. So it's like they've perfected the process. You just walk in, take a pill there, take a pill home, got a couple of bad cramps, and you're no longer pregnant.
Right.
But when you're further along, they totally put you under. And you, at least I did. I woke up and a part of me was missing, literally.
Yeah.
And there was no one there to comfort you. They just like, okay, here's some painkillers, go home, call us if the bleeding doesn't stop.
Oh, God.
No counseling, no hug.
No, nothing.
Nope.
Exit out the back door.
Pretty much.
Wow.
Like just churning them in and out, as many as they could get done a day.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. That's why I can't even talk to people about Planned Parenthood. I can't. I'm like, go visit one. Go actually visit one, then come talk to me.
That's insane. Yeah, I constantly come in contact with people who are vehemently against Planned Parenthood and abortion, obviously. But I've never heard the story before. I've never heard of anybody who's actually done it. I mean, it has always kind of just been a battle of evidence as whether Planned Parenthood does or does not perform abortions, but there it is.
Absolutely. You will never see a sign that says Planned Parenthood. It's an unmarked building in a strip mall somewhere.
Oh my gosh.
Just completely inconspicuous. Nobody would even know. Now, the ones where you go get your birth control and get your STD testing, say Planned Parenthood, still a terrible part of town. They're never in good parts of town, which is planned. Thank you, Margaret Sanger.
Right.
But you would never know that it was an abortion clinic. The doors are locked. They buzz you in. There's like plated glass doors. If there's like no windows,
Wow.
Yeah.
So
when people say, I've never seen abortions at a Planned Parenthood. Well, you're right.
I know.
You haven't.
I hear that all the time.
You're absolutely right. Unless you go to the specific building for killing babies, you will never see abortions at a Planned Parenthood. And it's absolutely planned that way.
Right. So this was the child of this boyfriend that you had.
Yes, rock star, tattoo artist, karaoke DJ,
And
boyfriend.
then you decide to go back to Florida.
So move down to Florida, find out he's cheating on me, break up. But because I'm so ridiculously stubborn, I'm like, I'm going back to Atlanta.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just there's a lot for you in that town.
So much. Like my whole future is waiting for me
Mm-hmm.
back in Atlanta. So yeah, this is kind of the part of the story where we hit rock bottom.
All right.
There's
Let's
just
hear it.
so much debauchery. Like, don't necessarily want to glorify it, but more debauchery than perhaps when I was dancing. And it just, I was a short order cook at a diner.
What?
And
Oh no. I don't like where this is going.
I mean, it wasn't like a diner. It was more of like a hipster bar that served food.
Oh god.
Yeah. So I'm like line cook and bar back and dishwasher. Like, so I'm working like 12-hour shifts.
Real salt of the earth.
Real salt of the earth. They are totally selling blow out of the kitchen, like just putting knives with lines of drugs on them up to my nose as I'm cutting lettuce. Like,
just to keep you going.
Just to keep me going.
Chop, slave, chop the lettuce.
So I'm doing that and I get so sick. It's like deathbed sick. At this point, I don't have a phone. I don't have internet. I barely have power at my house. Like, I have no means of communication to tell my job that I'm sick. So one of the managers just shows up at my apartment and is like, "Are you still even alive?"
Whoa.
Like, we've been really worried about you. We were about to call like the authorities, but I thought I'd just come check on you first. Because I think at this point it'd been like a week and a half.
Oh, wow. So you were just like, what, is it a flu or something? Well, like, maybe we'll find out here, but.
I think it was just sheer and utter, like, my body, it literally gave out on me.
It was just done.
It was just tapping out, like,
Yeah.
Total tap out.
Yeah.
And so I woke up one day and called my friend who lived in Texas and was like, "Hey, so is that offer to come live with you in Texas still valid?" And she's like, "Yeah, coming home for my birthday. I'll take it back with me." And so I was just like, "Cool, I'm going to move to Texas in a week and a half. I have $50 to my name and no phone, and everything I own can fit back in the bed of a Ford truck, and on my way to Texas."
Wow.
So that was the beginning, I think, of the nose pulling up.
Just going to Texas. God bless Texas.
No kidding. Just getting out of Atlanta.
Right.
Just getting out of Georgia.
Yeah.
Just leaving everything behind. And I mean, it was still a long road in Texas, like another good 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so
getting your life back together.
Kinda, but met another super awesome dude.
Oh man, you sure know how to pick them.
You have no idea, Basil. Like, actually, you do have some idea.
I think I have a pretty good idea.
So at this point, like, I am single because God's like, "No, Jen, you're not allowed to choose your own
You're
mate.
done. You abused the privilege.
You're done. I revoke that from you until you live with your mother until I say so."
Yeah.
Like, you can't get into too much trouble living with your 71-year-old mom.
That'll keep you straight.
Cats. It really will. So start dating this guy. He's in a band that is, I don't want to say the name. I don't want to give him away or anything.
Sure.
And so, but let's just say there's the word widow in the name, and all their songs are about death.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like your type.
And their lead singer is a 33rd degree Mason.
Ooh, he's a real accomplished fellow.
But here's the crazy thing is that he had a little bit of Jesus in him too. Like his parents were definitely still Christian. Like so it wasn't all bad. Like it could have been a whole lot worse.
Sure.
So I go through like kind of boring, just, kind of job hopping, and lost another job and decided I'm going back to school. It's like, I'm doing it. Going to community college, 30 years old. I'm just going to do it. And so start going back to school, and for neuroscience, mind you, I was like, I'm go big or go home.
Yeah, of course.
And so, yeah. And so I get involved with a married professor with baby.
You can put the.
I know exactly.
Yeah, that's all I got.
You don't even have to finish that. So my boyfriend at the time's on the road all the time on tour, and I'm at home by myself. Mm-hmm. So we work together at the school.
Studying neuroscience and other indoor activities.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that went on for like a year, and so here's the point of the story where I actually almost renounced Jesus.
Oh.
So mind you, my whole life and all of everything I've gone through, Jesus is my Lord and Savior. Jesus is the Son of God. Like, I believe in Jesus. And like, no doubt in my mind, I get so involved with this guy that the only way to justify it is to renounce Jesus, that he doesn't exist.
Now, how do you mean?
Like, there can still be a God, but Jesus wasn't the Son of God. He was just
what is dating, or what is being involved with this professor?
With a professor who was married and had a baby.
Yeah.
Like, the guilt was so overwhelming.
Oh, you came to a point in yourself. You had to rectify this cognitive dissonance going on.
Exactly. And the only way to do that was to renounce Jesus. I could still believe in God in a very agnostic, like, it's just an entity, energy type thing.
Right.
Right. But Jesus, no, there's no place for Jesus in my worldview if this is going to continue.
Right. And
God, in his infinite grace and mercy, moved the entire family to Florida.
Huh. Before you could pull the trigger on that?
Before I could pull the trigger and renounce Jesus.
Wow.
It's like,
he sure does have good timing.
He has amazing timing. Oh my God. Like, he knew. So I am taking a bunch of philosophy classes too. And because I absolutely love philosophy. That's actually what I wanted to be when I was a kid, was a philosophy professor.
Wow. What a sexy dream you had.
My dad was like, and you better learn how to ask, would you like fries with that? It's like, thanks, Dad, for the support. You're awesome. So taking a bunch of philosophy classes, and my philosophy professor is actually like a Baptist pastor in his spare time. Like, you don't know that until the last day of class.
Right.
But I'm having to write my honors philosophy paper, and it was going to be on my philosophy of like Jesus and Christianity, and like how that it seems so ridiculous now, but how that can be synthesized with quantum physics.
Hey,
And
hey, it's
you know,
there's certainly a lot of people doing some work with that.
right. But at this point, I'm not even a Christian yet. And I'm trying to do this.
Oh, so you're trying to science your way into it.
Kinda.
Uh-huh.
And it's literally, it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. I could not write down on paper that Jesus Christ was my Lord and Savior.
Yeah.
I physically couldn't do it. So I just kind of cobbled together some intellectual sounding sentences and turned it in. And he knew like how hard I struggled with it, because I went to him and he's like given me, like, I think he thinks he's trying to wake me up. He's given me these like resources like Madame Blavatsky and de Telliard to like point me in the direction of like the occult mystery schools and the Luciferian agenda, because he could see where I was trying to go with it. And it was too much. So I just kind of turned in the paper and he gave me a 50 on it. Like, it was a week late and it was awesome. And then, so I ended up having to just drop out. I couldn't handle the pressure of school. I had a 4.0 my first 2 years, having been out of school for years. And I just had put so much pressure on myself. I just completely had a mental breakdown.
Wow.
And
you were killing it.
Killing it until calculus. Yeah.
Hey, sister, you and me too. It's only through some very crafty credits and class planning did I not ever have to touch any. I didn't even have to go into statistics. I did a great job, except for now I've forgotten how to add numbers.
That's the worst.
Yeah.
No, statistics is my favorite. I'm actually gonna write my testimony, my book, and it's, God gave me the name. It's Confessions of a Statistical Outlier.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah, I know. So
Cool.
I absolutely love statistics. It's how I make sense of the world. It's amazing. I killed it. And all the other math, I just got to calculus and it kicked my butt.
Yeah.
And so it was my first F, and it was devastating. 5 credits at a 0. It was, I couldn't go on. I was like, that's it.
After 4.0 for 2 years.
Yes. And I had taken like, here's the crazy thing. Like, I was taking biology too, and we were getting into evolution, and I couldn't wrap my mind around it. I couldn't get it. And I was like, I know I'm not dumb. Why can't I get evolution? Come to find out now, it's because I don't believe in macroevolution, so my brain wasn't going to comprehend it.
Right.
But yeah, so I quit school at this time. My mom had given me the shack years prior.
Oh.
And I had kept it around. I mean, I had books on Aleister Crowley, like how to cultivate your psychic abilities, how to astral project, which that reminds me, through this whole time, I'm experiencing sleep paralysis, like horrible, like almost on a nightly basis, like demonic, waking up, seeing demons.
Yeah.
Like straight up sleep paralysis. So
sure, yeah.
So I just take the book off the shelf and start reading it, and it wrecked me. Like, just wrecked me. I am on the ground, a sobbing mess because of this book. And I was like, I've never, ever seen Jesus portrayed in that way. And if that's how Jesus is, that's the Jesus I want. Like, I want that.
Yeah.
And so I started looking for churches, and my boyfriend at the time, his girlfriend, or no, his cousin worked for a church, and she had given me some worship CDs for Christmas one year, and I tossed them to the side or whatever, and I put one on from the church, and that's the only CD I listened to. I'm not even kidding, for 3 months straight. Like, I was always the one who like made fun of those like Worship Now commercials,
right,
where the kids are crying in the crowd. I'm like, that's not real.
Now that's what I call worship, volume 12.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
it was a good one.
Yeah, it was. So I'm listening to this, and I'm just singing it, and it's driving my boyfriend crazy. It's the only thing I'm listening in the car. He doesn't have a license, so I have to drive us everywhere. And so he's like, "Can we please listen to something else?" I was like, "Nope, my car, my radio, my rules." And so I couldn't get enough. And right around this time, my best friend got pregnant unknowingly, like, had no idea she was pregnant. We went to the hospital to get her thyroid medication refilled, and she came out and was like, "Oh, and I'm pregnant too."
Like you do.
Yeah, just like you do. And so she knew she wanted to keep it, but didn't really necessarily know how that was going to look. So I went online looking for anything, really, like some sort of support group. And I found this group called Embrace Grace that was actually at the church that my boyfriend's cousin worked at. And I had been like once or twice for Christmas with his parents or whatever. And I was like, okay, it's 45 minutes away, but we're going to go to this. And so I took her, and while she was in group, it was also like their single parent singles night. And so I went in to worship and just got wrecked again.
And this was presumably like what? The first church you've been to in a long time, or first worship service?
Definitely the first, other than like the, couple of Christmas at this church where like I couldn't raise my hands. I would stand there with my hands crossed, like I'm just going to watch. Not an active participant.
Right.
Whatsoever.
So now between the shack and the pregnancy of a friend, the journey home has begun.
Well, I think it started with the philosophy paper.
Okay, yes.
I think that's where it really started from. And then the shack
at least was a catalyst, seemed to be the catalyst that things needed to get figured out.
Yes. And I had, at this point, also had acquired a horrible Adderall addiction being in school.
Oh, man.
Just
doesn't stop, girl.
No, it doesn't. My best friend was a dealer and just gave it to me like candy.
So, so during this time, and I'm assuming, obviously, the philosophy paper, this was a big moment. I mean, you're finally having to address this cognitive dissonance. And cognitive dissonance is known to be one of the biggest causes of depression and anxiety and things like that, because it's sort of this low-lying hum that things aren't right.
Go ahead, sorry.
And so it seems like it was that instance that is kind of forcing you to have to figure it out. And it is a slow, seems to be it's all of our processes are slow. And so, but if it wasn't for addressing that, it seems like opening up the shack. I mean, you had to get to a place to open up the shack.
I can't even tell you what prompted me to do so. It
Right.
was just like I had a couple of different Christian books my mom had given me over the years, and I had floor to ceiling bookshelves, and I kept all the books that I didn't read on the top bookshelf
Yeah.
because not easy access, and
Yeah.
so it was up there. All the Christian books were on the top shelf.
Yeah.
You know?
And
Oh,
I guess what my question is, I mean, is there a point where you're kind of like, I need to get back to Jesus, or is it just sort of these things being presented in your life one after the other?
I knew I wanted something more. I was like, if this is all there is, if this, like, my boyfriend coming home every day, smoking weed, watching Netflix until we pass out, like, if that's all there is, I really quite possibly will end it at this point.
Right.
Like,
I'll get off here.
Yeah, like, thanks, I'm checking out.
Yeah.
And I knew, I was like, there's more. I was created for more than this. Like, I know that. Like, some of the truths started seeping in, like, from some of the Bible research, because I used scripture in the philosophy paper. Like, it started creeping in. It did. It started presenting itself to me like, you were made for more than this. This isn't all there is. Like, do something. Like, you can't continue existing like this.
Right.
And he would tell me, he's like, yeah, a lot of people say that, but there's really not. Like, no, you're just kidding yourself.
Right.
I was
Right.
like, that's unacceptable. That is an unacceptable answer for me. Like, if you're cool with just existing, smoking pot, that's cool, but I'm gonna go find out what else there is. And so like I said, I can't even remember what prompted me to take it off the shelf. It was just, I know now it was obviously the Holy Spirit.
Yeah. Well, and it seems like you were given this discontentment. That's really the only way we grow in any way, whether it's in our spiritual lives or even just, I don't know, learning a trade. It has to start with a discontentment about how things are. And so it seems like you had a very clear, and maybe it took you a while to figure it out, or maybe you didn't figure it out at the time, but it was a discontentment that led you to the things that weren't average for you.
So I think what it was having to put my cat down.
Oh.
Yeah. I had gotten so addicted to Adderall and so focused on school that I didn't notice that my cat had gotten sick.
Oh no.
And had quit eating, and he was always overweight. He was 22 pounds and he was amazing. His name was Dr. Faustus because he had a PhD in cuteness and he was amazing. I had him for 13 years. He came with me everywhere. He was probably one of the things that kept me living because I didn't know who would feed him if I died. So
yeah. I mean,
he kept me
we
around.
need to keep the cats first.
Yes. And so he got sick and started losing weight a lot and then started losing hair. And at first I was like, oh, it's because I switched his food. He's on a diet. But it got really bad. And by the time I got him to the vet, it was too late. He had fatty liver disease, and I tried to nurse him back to health, and it didn't work. And I had to put him down, and it was a wake-up call.
Oh.
Like, this is not okay.
Yeah.
The way you're living your life is not okay. Your
Wow.
cat just died because of, like, you just totally missed it.
Wow.
You were so addicted, to Adderall. And I'd love to say at this point is when I quit, but I can't. That's a whole nother story.
Yeah, that's its own journey.
um, so yeah, I just, that's when I think I always lived in a state of cognitive dissonance. Otherwise I wouldn't have drank so much. But yeah, the whole almost renouncing Jesus, the philosophy paper, putting my cat down, then the shack, because I was devastated. I think maybe that's what it was that made me pull the shack off the bookshelf,
Right.
was having to put my cat down.
Yeah.
Like I was heartbroken.
That seems like a big catalyst to leave out.
Yeah.
Catalyst.
I told you, like, sometimes I forget details. Like,
That's
the brain
okay.
is all over the place.
No, I mean, I get it. And a lot of people out there, I didn't really understand it until my little incident with Monty. That the animals, they're a lot of times they're the closest one to you, and to lose one, I mean, that can be a huge wake up call.
Huge.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, God used it and pulled the shack off, wrecked me. Best friend got pregnant, made our way to church. And so I'm like I'm almost there at this point. We're talking like, I think July of 2013. So we're pretty close at this point. And then I get into a wreck. I get hit by a tractor trailer.
Oh my gosh.
But like I walked away unscathed, like totally unscathed. I hit the accelerator. I saw it coming over to my lane, hit the accelerator and sped up to where it actually just barely sideswiped the back of my car. Had I like slammed on the brakes, I probably wouldn't be here talking to you.
Yeah.
Right now.
Wow.
And but it did do some internal damage, as far as like found out later that it broke my back.
Nope.
Yep. And so, working at waiting tables, not in school at this time, like the enemy's really like purposely trying to kill me at this point. Like almost had a giant sliver of antique glass go through my wrist, and just only to be stopped by the bone. Like had it been a quarter inch. Yeah. Because my friend got a flat tire.
So there's just a big target on your back now.
Yes.
You start pulling yourself out of this hole, and it's time to take some drastic action, it seems like.
Yes, absolutely. He's pulling out all the shots.
Yep.
So I quit that job. It was awful. At this point, I'm actually claiming Christian at this point.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, I'm a Christian. Don't know if that was the best idea, because some of the ways I still talked and lived was just like, but so like that didn't do anything.
Wasn't really on brand.
Right. Yeah. Like definitely bad marketing for Jesus. So at this point, I was like, I don't have a job. I want to get a job at the church bookstore. I'm going to get a job at the church bookstore. Didn't really know how hard that was going to be. I mean, we're talking mega church here. Like some lists would list it as the 4th largest church in the country.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Probably moving
Huge.
A lot of product.
They really are, actually. So yeah, I go from this like tiny little Methodist church to a giant mega church, like 4,000 seat auditorium mega church, and just was like, this is home. This is where I belong. So I started volunteering in the bookstore, ended up getting a job from there because I'd wrecked my other car that I had gotten from the first wreck, got into another wreck, totaled that car.
Now,
yeah.
how is it? What's going on on an emotional level now? I mean, it seems you're making strides. You're at least claiming Christianity now. Do you feel like you're heading in the right way? Do you feel like you're making the changes that you need, or do you still have, some ugliness hanging around? What's that like?
Well, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there still is, but I'm like, you know what? If I'm doing this, I'm going all in. I quit smoking weed. I had to have an uncomfortable talk with my boyfriend about our current situation.
Right.
And so I was like, I'm doing this. And so on my birthday, there happened to be a membership class for the church on a Sunday night on my birthday. There's never been a membership class on a Sunday night before, and there's never been one since. Like,
Wow.
I'm not even kidding with you. Like, I told you God knew I was bad with dates. So I go to this membership class and I sign up, and I completely recommit my life to Christ. Just like, this is it. This is the decision. I can't do it anymore by myself. I've done it. It hasn't worked. I completely submit over to you, God. I'm giving it to you. Have at it. Because I'm tired and I don't want to do this anymore. And so he's like, cool. I've been waiting for that pretty much your whole life.
Right.
Thanks. Yeah. So I jumped into freedom ministry. We have a huge freedom ministry at my church. I started going to like freedom from addiction classes, which were kind of like a 12-step that's scripturally based. But what I love about it is that they focused on Jesus and not the addiction. And so they don't put that label of alcoholic on you, like once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom, and you're free from it.
Right.
And so he literally started changing the desires of my heart. Like, I no longer, once I started getting to those root issues, I didn't want to drink anymore. I didn't want to not be sober anymore. Like, I wanted Jesus. That's all I wanted. Like, I went to every single church service there was. I don't care if it was like a senior service. If there was worship going on, I was there, period. And working in the bookstore, I always took my breaks during any worship, like the beginning of services on Monday nights. There was something Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and every other Thursday. And so I just completely immersed myself in the church and got through Christmas still with my boyfriend. And by April of 2014, I felt there was another like cognitive dissonance. I felt like I was living a double life, like awesome at church, then coming home to a boyfriend on my couch smoking weed.
Right.
And at this point, I told him, I was like, you can't smoke weed in the house anymore, period. Like, you can't. And so I'd come home one day from work and he had smoked in the house, and I'd had it. And I was like, we can't, this is it. We're done.
Yeah.
We're breaking up.
Boom.
Yeah. And it didn't take the first time.
Classic story.
Right. And so he went on tour in Europe, and I did Kairos, which is like a 2-day freedom thing. And then I went to Heart Quest, which is a week-long, like, Kairos on steroids, like in the middle of hill country, where you, like, just go outside and spend, like, one day you go outside and you just spend 8 hours fasting outside with God alone.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty radical.
Oh, my God. It was amazing. Like, that's when the scales fell. Like, that is when the lies were dispelled and the scales fell from my eyes. And it was amazing. And Jesus became a reality at that point. Like, he was real. And so got back, started a class called Mending the Soul for people who had gone through, abuse, which is a 12-week class. My boyfriend gets back into town from Europe, well, ex-ish, and I couldn't stand to be around him. I couldn't, probably how my mom felt when she was around me when I was demonically possessed.
Right.
That's how I felt around him. I was like, I can't even be around you. I was like, we cannot even have contact anymore. This is it. And he's like, well, what about my parents? And, his sister died while we were together for 7 years. And, yeah, long time.
Yeah.
And, he's like, my mom thinks you're like a daughter. I was like, don't you dare guilt me on this. No. And God kept asking me well, do you think your new husband would be super chill with you hanging out with your ex's parents? I'm like, touche, God. That's the other book I'm going to write. It's called Touche, God.
That's a good one. Yeah, you better be careful. Somebody's going to steal some of these.
I know. You can't have them. Whoever's listening.
It'll be you could win a copyright court.
It's true.
Yeah.
So he's like, okay, you got to get out of the ghetto, because I'd always lived in pretty bad neighborhoods because it was all I could afford. He's like, you got to get out of the barrio. You need to move closer to church. Just give all your things away. No problem. And I'll find you a place to live. And I was like, oh my God. He's like, and all your books. You got to get rid of.
Some real trust stuff going on there. Real having to jump off and be obedient.
Yeah. I mean, he had whispered break up 6 months prior before I'd actually broken up with my boyfriend, and I totally rationalized it. But yeah, he's just like, break up. And I was like, no, clearly you can't mean with my boyfriend.
No, thanks.
That could apply to something else, for sure. But yeah, he's like, don't take your bed. I'll tell you exactly what you can and can't take. I was like, okay. And he's like, well, you can't take any of your books except for the shack and your Bible. I was like, I'm literally on the floor crying as I'm packing up my books. And I'm like, what? No. I had this huge H.P. Lovecraft collection. And he just kept asking me, do you love your books and knowledge more? Or do you love me more? I love you more. 15 boxes of books.
Holy smokes.
15.
That's a real collection.
Yes. It's one of the only, I moved around a lot, and it's one of the only things that I ever kept with me were my books. They were my comfort. I wasn't a popular kid. I would get lost in books. That's all I did. And my mom would drop me off at the library after school, and the librarian would babysit me. That's where I hung out.
Wow.
Yeah. So they were my comfort, my knowledge, my intelligence, my, all of that. That was my identity. It's who I was. I was always the smart one. That's what my siblings always said. They're like, you're the smart one. You've always been the smart one. So he was like, I will provide a bed for you. And so in my finite human brain, I'm like, okay, well, cool. I'll sell the books and it'll give me enough money to buy a bed. And makes sense, right? Totally logical.
All you need is a bed.
Right? I'm like, I'm looking at IKEA. I'm like, $200. I got 15 boxes of books. Clearly I could get $200. There's some gems in there. So I take it to this place called Half Price Books. $53.
Yeah. Yeah. The used book market ain't what it used to be.
It's really not.
Yeah.
It's really not. So I was I'm crying again and was like, God, what? And so I just trust him. House sitting for a friend of mine out in Roanoke, talking about it to a coworker. One of the volunteers is like, oh, Roanoke? I live in Roanoke. I was like, do you need a roommate? She's like, actually, yeah. Why don't you just move in with me rent free? I won't even charge you anything. I was like, yeah. Yeah. She's like, yeah, but let me pray about it. And she came back a couple of days later. She's like, yeah, I have a spare bedroom. You can totally move in with me. And she had a spare bed, and it was the exact same one that I was going to buy from IKEA.
Isn't that how he works?
He does. He's so good.
I can't even say I'm surprised. It's
no.
Classic God.
Classic God. So I've kind of figured it out. Like, his ways are higher than my ways. His thoughts are higher than my thoughts. As soon as I can think of a way something can happen, it automatically can't happen that way.
Yeah.
Because I could think of it. And so I just stopped, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go along for the ride. So get super involved in church, find out my back's broken, have to get back surgery. My mom had come out to visit, and she fell in love with the church. And so she's like, I'm going to move out there. God worked it out where my roommate moved out. She moved in, ended up having back surgery. It didn't take, had to go back in. And as they were taking the screws out, he sliced my spinal, like it sliced it open.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, had a spinal fluid leak. In ICU for 2 weeks at like a 20-degree incline.
Now, here's a question. They say that acid likes to chill in your spinal fluid, and if you break your back, then you can get that reintroduced to the bloodstream. Did you experience any of that?
Not. I don't think so.
Okay. All right.
No?
It's just something I heard. Didn't know if it was real or not.
Not that I know of. Yeah.
Okay.
Can't confirm that for
Answered
you.
that question.
But it's cool that you had somebody to ask.
Yeah, I'm learning all sorts of stuff.
Right? So, I just had to trust God. I'm still in pain. Like, the back surgery just didn't do anything. I'm still in pain, and I'm just having to trust him now. Like, oh God, I got so angry and so frustrated, like watching people getting miraculously healed around me and it not happening for me, like so angry. But I realize what he's doing in me is so much bigger than any miraculous healing could ever do. And so once again, just totally submitted to the process at this point, just it bringing me closer to him, having to be completely and totally dependent on him on a daily basis for strength.
Right.
Because of how much pain I'm in all the time.
And so how long were you in the hospital for?
The first time, 10 days, 12, 14 days, 2 weeks. The second time, a week, and then they sent me home and it reopened and I went back in for another 10 days.
How long ago was this?
2 years ago,
2015. 2 years
2015.
ago.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like now I'm assuming that eventually healed up and you learned your lesson to not let a doctor slice your back.
Right.
Yeah.
Shame on me.
You to learn that one. Good.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, from what I gather, it seems like, unless there's any other crazy happenings.
I'm sure there is, but I'm getting tired.
No, I know. I was going to say it's getting late here, but
And we haven't even talked about cats and juicing.
Oh, well, I'm not going to let you go without talking about cats and juicing.
Oh,
But
thanks.
I got a couple questions for you
Please,
overall,
please.
okay? So, I
Okay.
mean, this is obviously just a saga of a journey that you've been on in your life, and a lot of it obviously very entertaining, a lot of it very controversial, a lot of it very enlightening, and a lot of it just kind of maybe a little uncomfortable for some people. Um, but
Can
what do you think were some of the biggest lessons that you learned at different stages in your life? Like what, I mean, you've gone through more than most people will ever experience in their life as far as hardship um, and maybe just life choices and and the
shenanigans.
consequences that come with that. So what's
So
the
many consequences.
but what share with me some of the most important things you've learned, if you could sum them up, in regards to maybe life choices, maybe some cognitive dissonance, maybe some I don't know. I mean that scene where you're in the strip club on 9/11. I mean, it's just so powerful, I guess.
Is that the word?
Yeah, I mean, what if
Okay.
there's somebody out there? I mean, if there's a statistical chance that somebody out there is in a similar situation or knows somebody in a similar situation, we're all about improving things around here. Share us a little bit.
Um,
Share us a little bit is a real professional interviewer question
share us a little bit.
that I've developed over the years. What are some of the
It's
biggest
good.
lessons that you've learned that you would think are kind of overarching?
Um,
And
I,
and don't worry,
I,
they don't have to be life changing. They don't have to be
no, I mean,
written
I
down on
think
stone or anything.
the first one that comes to mind. The biggest lesson that I learned after having come out of all of that is God never left me.
Mm,
He was with me in every single moment. He had his hand on my life and he never let me go. And he pursued me more relentlessly than the enemy did.
ah.
And he won.
Isn't it such a great point to come to in life when you realize that that is the case?
Yeah, I mean, I had to ask him. I had to sit down and specifically say, God, where were you when I was getting raped? Where were you when I was having an abortion? Where were you when I was getting molested by my family member? And every single time he showed me exactly where he was. And it would have been infinitely worse had he not been there.
Right. Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. That's great.
And yeah, it's just, I can't stress enough just how much he loved me enough to pursue me through the strip clubs, through the drugs, through everything. He didn't care. Like, he loved me that much.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. And it's interesting that in life, I mean, we can, no matter how horrible things are and how horrible we feel and how devoid of joy or even the possibility of joy that we can, that the situations that we are in can come to make us feel. Um, there's a time in our lives, and sometimes we learn it for the first time. Sometimes we forget it and have to relearn it. But
A lot.
but it's such a big moment when you actually take the time and either he speaks it right to you or however it happens that he's there the whole time. And
The whole time.
how much of a difference that makes. And when you can see that, when you can see the times in your life where maybe you didn't think he was there, but you realize he was, that it helps you remember that he's with you now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I still forget sometimes, that he's right there next to me, and I have to be reminded, on a daily basis that he's still there. I mean, humans aren't really that smart. Like, we forget a lot. I mean, just look at the Israelites.
Yeah.
They forgot all the time. And so he gets that. He knows that. And he doesn't care. He's willing to come back every single time, as long as you're just like, I'm sorry, God, I need you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, and you make a great point. The cycle of the ancient Israelites, the biblical Israelites, and which I think is a cycle that's repeated in all of our lives all the time, is this cycle of remembrance and forgetting. Throughout the entire Old Testament is basically just a big collection of books talking about how God's people forgot and then remembered.
They're like, oh yeah.
Then we're told to remember, but then forgot.
And don't do the things anymore.
And then remembered. And I mean, so much even of, modern Judaism and the traditions that have been passed down from ancient Judaism, I mean, they're all about remembrance. And
they have a whole day for it.
What?
They have a whole day for it.
Yeah.
Of just remembering.
So many of their rituals and so many of their feasts and things like that, it's all based around remembering, because it really is, to make it through this life, if we're not remembering the fact that God is with us and what he's gotten us through, it's not just remembering just because it's fun to remember or just because, he wants the attention. It's because it's in that remembering that we can find how he is working and how he is present and how we can find joy in our lives at this very moment and at every very moment.
Absolutely. I mean, even Jesus says, do this in remembrance of me.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Amen, sister.
There you go.
All right. So I gotta know about some cats. Unless you have something else burning on your heart, which you are totally welcome to, or we can talk about cats until you think of something else.
I do want to say I go to a mega church, and I'm pretty sure my pastor's awake because
hey, that's cool.
We had Chuck Missler come and speak.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Evans did a whole series, and he actually mentioned Genesis 6, the Nephilim, and used the word transhumanism from the pulpit on a Sunday.
Whoa.
Great, it was a summer series, but
I gotta say, we do kind of tend to, or this community, our community, tends to get the megachurch pastors get it pretty tough.
They do.
They definitely get it the toughest, and I'm not going to say that they don't all. I'm not going to say that some of them don't deserve it, but that's good to hear. There's God's working with them too. Everybody's figuring it out, and sounds like your pastor is trying to work it in wherever he can, given the pressures and the consequences of being a megachurch pastor.
I'm not going to lie. The Chuck Missler did not go over well.
No, I'm sure it did not.
Sermon. That's the only teaching that was ever asked to be taken down from the website.
What?
Because there were so many complaints.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
And it was his UFOs are the Nephilim.
Yeah.
Lecture.
Oh my gosh, that is hilarious. Yeah. All right. Well, it sounds like your pastor's really living on the edge over there.
Yes, we're actually starting. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say he's a good example for he's a good case study for how we can cut megachurch pastors a little bit of a break as far as that stuff goes.
We have on average 40,000 attendees on a weekend. So
wow, that's crazy.
6 campuses.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and we're starting a new series this next weekend with the same Jimmy Evans called Exposing the Enemy. So I'm praying that there'll be some more like Luciferian agenda. So y'all need to pay attention for your Nephilim watch.
There you go. Send us some Nephilim watch for Canary Cry News Talk. We should start actually asking for Nephilim watch. All right. Okay. So
Okay.
tell me about some kitty cats. You got one now?
I got 2.
Okay. Tell me about the joys and the uplifting that they bring to your life.
We could do a whole nother episode on just my cat.
Well, it sounds like your other cat, the one you had to put down. I mean, he was with you through a lot of this.
Most of it.
Maybe him and God were hanging out.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're just sitting watching the whole time.
Keeping me alive.
Yeah.
So after I had to put him down, I was so devoid. I was like, I can't not have a cat. And my boyfriend was like, no, I'm allergic to cats. I dealt with that one.
See, that was your first red flag.
Right.
He had a lot of other ones, but that should have been the one.
That should have been the number one red flag.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that is number one priority when it comes to compatibility.
Agreed. Yeah, it is definitely on my deal breaker list for sure now. Allergic to cats or don't like them? Sorry.
Yep. So your demon boyfriend didn't like cats.
So I was like, you know what? I don't care. I'm going to get one. I'm going to find a cat. I need a kitten. That's all there is to it. And so my friend posted his girlfriend. They had found a litter of kittens in the rain, abandoned by their mama.
Aww.
And brought them in. I was like, I must have one. And I went over there and she was the one cowering in the back.
Aww.
And I was like, I'm going to call you Stella. And the girl was really hesitant about adopting them out. And she's like, that's my boyfriend's car's name. Clearly, this is fate. She belongs to you.
That's my boyfriend's car's name. God works in mysterious ways.
So mysterious. I had no idea. The name just popped into my head, and I looked at her and said, I'm going to call you Stella.
That is so funny.
So she came home with me, and I went and picked up with my boyfriend, and we got into a huge fight because I got a cat without his permission. And we got back to my house, and he went to sit on the couch. I was like, stop! Because she's a burrower, and she had burrowed into the back part of the couch.
No.
And he was about to sit on her.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes!
Get this guy out of here.
Well, he didn't. In his defense, he didn't know.
Oh, he
and
knew.
He's like, no, he was like, what? And I pulled her up out of the couch, and instantly he was like, I'm in love. In fact, that was kind of the hardest thing when we broke up. It was like our child.
Yeah.
I didn't know where I was going to have to go, and I didn't know if I was going to be able to bring my cat. But obviously, God worked it out, and I was able to bring her. But she's amazing. She's my Facebook photo. I love her. She's awesome. And then when I moved in with my roommate, she had another little kitty called Buttercup. And when she moved out, she couldn't take her. So I acquired Buttercup, who has now acquired my mother. So my mom is her human, and I am Stella's, and they run our house.
Yeah, you got a little girl gang going on in there.
Yes. And Buttercup squeaks. She sounds like an air being let out of a balloon, when you pull the balloon.
Yeah.
She doesn't meow. It has a squeak box.
Yeah, that's adorable.
She's so cute. And when my mom goes out of town, she goes nuts. She just walks around the house crying all day. I'm like, Buttercup, come here. But she's the neediest cat that won't let you hold her at all.
Yeah, I gotta say, my second cat, I think I've mentioned her on the program. I can't remember what secret internet.
The older one?
Yeah, she's real old and she's crazy. I think she's actually crazy. A little bit of dementia. It's like living with a crazy 110-year-old woman who just walks around and it's the same
Bumps
thing.
into things.
She's
Meows.
yeah, and kind of like your squeaky cat, except hers is like, it sounds like something terrible is happening. It's kind of like I would make it. I'll try to make the noise. I might have to edit it out because it's really
No way.
might make people crash their cars, but it's just kind of like, and she'll just stomp around the house and just not doing anything, not looking at anything, not trying to address anyone, just and she hates speakerphone. Like if there's a speakerphone on, she will find, no matter where I am in relation to her in the house, she will find me and she will make me regret it. She just starts like biting you and yelling, and it's just a total disruption and whatever. But she hates it. She just really hates speakerphone.
Did you acquire her?
Yes.
At an old age?
So that's what I was gonna say. Is I find that second cats, while we love them just as much as the first, are often thrust upon us.
Well, yeah, because we didn't have
it's
them
not
as
like
babies.
It's not like we're looking for cat number 2, but it's not like we're not looking for cat number 2. So when cat number 2 presents themselves,
I am always looking for cat number 2 or 3. If it wasn't for my mom, I would have a menagerie. Like, I come from a line of animal hoarders.
Yeah.
Like, my grandpa was a vet, and when he died, he had like 36 cats and 25 dogs.
Oh, I was the same way, and this is a fun part of my childhood. I was one of those kids who collected bugs and frogs and hamsters and guinea pigs, and so I had at any one time at least 25 different bug species in jars in my room. I had 2 toads and a frog, and the toads were constantly reproducing, and so were my 2 hamsters, and so were my 2 guinea pigs, and I also had 2 bunnies. Luckily, they were not. Yes, they're the worst. Bunnies are the worst.
My mom won't let me have a bunny.
I know people love bunnies, and I really need to repent of my negativity of bunnies. I personally have not had such a great experience. I recently interviewed a guest who has a wonderful, adorable bunny whom she loves. But I just can't do it. Bunnies, man. But anyways, so yeah, no, I'm kind of the same way. It's like I collected animals my entire childhood.
Well, I couldn't have animals. I mean, we always had a dog and a cat, so I collected stuffed animals.
Yeah. I think that's where it starts, though.
It is.
I definitely had just a separate bed that was piled high with stuffed animals. I was a weird kid. The older I get,
really, I wouldn't have never have guessed.
The older I get, the more I realize that my childhood self was like just the real. I could just, looking back, I actually have moments where I can remember parents, just like other parents, looking at me and just being like, "Wow. That one is strange."
I was the kid that like the parents didn't want to come over because I was yes.
Oh no.
And I'm not gonna lie, I may or may not have a few stuffed animals now, pushing 40.
Yeah, well, that's okay. I feel like
Is it though?
I think it's now I don't want to get sexist, but nobody's gonna be like, "Oh, she's a 38-year-old woman and has a few stuffed animals." But if it's like, "Oh, he's a 28-year-old bachelor and has stuffed animals on his bed."
Are you 28?
Yeah.
Did you just give away your age?
No, that's common knowledge.
Oh, okay, I didn't know.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
I mean, if you pay attention, I've never made a big deal about it, but yeah, it's
I think I could have deduced, but
yeah, that one's out of the bag.
Yeah.
I referenced my Pokemon addiction of 2001 often enough.
Have you repented of your Pokemon? Don't still play Pokemon.
This is I know within the community there's a lot of people who have a lot to say about Pokemon. I can't really verify the demonic possession that Pokemon causes, but I have recently been curious about the new generation of Pokemon.
So
I don't know if you are aware of the Pokemon universe. I don't know if this is going to turn into a Pokemon fan cast right now, but
definitely not a fan cast because I'm not a fan.
Okay.
For sure.
I'm a fan of the original 151.
That are all based on Japanese demons.
Yes, of course.
Yes. Well, they are. That's where they got their ideas from. They're based on Japanese folklore.
Yeah,
mythology.
Of course.
Yeah. Totally.
I mean, pretty much all of Japanese pop culture is all based on demons. Gonz and I often talk about anime off air.
That's right. He's Japanese.
Yes. So I have my full education in Japanese demonry from Gonz.
I dated a guy who was obsessed with Japanese culture, and I couldn't get into anime. Don't like it. Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I dabbled.
I'm sure you did.
I dabbled, and the Pokemon phenomenon. At the time, I was basically the demographic. So I was certainly swooped up in the Pokemon craze.
It was a little after my time to get swept up.
Yeah.
And, but I mean, it
was a little bit after you were a 7-year-old boy.
Right.
Yeah.
I might have been like a 20-year-old stripper.
Yeah, I don't know if you're really in that target demo.
No, definitely.
Although
that's not who they were going.
They didn't. You weren't necessarily part of the focus group on that one.
They did not ask my opinion about the best marketing plan.
Oh man.
Oh, good times.
Yeah, real good times.
So yeah, I got my stuffed animals, got my cats.
Good. Are you? How do you? Here's something. I try to talk about this before we get to the cats, but so how are you feeling nowadays? I mean, now we all know that clinical depression and there's chemicals and there's all sorts of things involved in this, and but it sounds like you. Even living with your mother at 38 with 2 cats, sounds like you're doing better.
You make it sound so...
Hey, I'm a watchman on the wall, Jen. I'm a watchman on the wall.
Yeah.
I tells it how I sees it.
I know the reality of my situation. I get it.
But
I do.
But it sounds like you're doing pretty good. Now, again, I'm not looking for, you're polka dots and sunshine, but it sounds like you're in a pretty good place.
I am in a much better place for sure, only because of Jesus.
Yeah.
And my cat.
Yeah.
And of course, that's a given.
I was gonna say.
Duh. So I've got an amazing job that God gave me. I work for a ticketing and registration solution company for churches and ministries. I work from home and I get to talk to churches all over the world and see what God is doing all over the world. And it's amazing. And I get to help build his kingdom on a daily basis in my pajamas from home.
Hey, so sounds like a pretty joyful situation to me.
It is. And so, like I said earlier, like depression is my default mode.
Yeah.
And so I have to make a concerted effort for joy.
Yeah.
Like I even have an essential oil called Joy that I put on every day.
Whatever you got to do.
I know it yes. And I got to a point when I started where I have to do it, Basil. I have to do it. I have to tell you that a huge part of like coming back to the church, because I didn't think my Illuminati views would be accepted within the church.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of what kept me out. And so after my back surgery, when I started delving back into it, I found the age of deceit.
Ah, dang it.
I know.
We almost made it. We
No,
almost made it.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I'm no, that film, and I don't, if anybody out there doesn't know about it, go
How
YouTube
can they
Age of
not?
Deceit. Age of Deceit 2 is
They
also
wanted-
out. Age of Deceit
3
is on its way.
its way out, probably episodic.
But if you are looking for just an amazing piece of media made by my dear friend and co-conspirator Gans Shimura, go check it out. He does a great job of really bringing all the pieces together to show you how the conspiracies of this world and the conspiracies of the spiritual world are entangled.
And that's what I was going to say, not to cut you off.
No,
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
that's okay.
But I didn't know how they fit together, and it synthesized it so beautifully. And the common thread throughout was Jesus, like, and it ended in hope. And I'd never experienced a hope with the conspiracies before. And so it was amazing in that manner, where I could have this worldview and not be depressed and still have this hope as my anchor. And, you know, my mom would come in and she's like, how do you not get depressed watching all this stuff? I'm like, because I've seen it firsthand. I know it's real. I accept it. And I know we win in the end.
Yeah. Amen. Amen, sister.
Amen, brother.
Yeah.
But I did honestly start to get a little depressed when Pizzagate came out. Like I think visually, and I was like, that's a little much.
Yeah.
And then what really made me angry is during the whole Trump presidency, like the whole campaign, how ugly our side got. Mm-hmm. And how they just started saying, if you can't be a Christian and vote for Hillary, like you just can't. Yeah. And I was like, I can't. That's what depressed me. And so I had to shut it down for a little while.
Yeah. No, that's both of those periods that you're talking about, which did overlap a little bit. Yeah, those are really hard times. Just emotionally, as somebody who is aware. I try to, just daily stay aware of how I'm feeling and not let it control me and keep track of it, which I think is the first step in the whole deal. But yeah, that was a hard time because you saw people turning on each other and illogically when it comes to the campaign aspect that you're talking about. And really there's not a lot of Christ in it.
There was no Christ in it. There was men and women that I absolutely respect and loved and listened to on a nightly basis saying, if you vote for Hillary, you're not a Christian.
Yeah.
I'm like, that, how, I don't even know how you can say that.
Yeah. And I personally, and I don't believe you either here, are trying to say that voting for Hillary is Christian, or voting for Trump is Christian, or anything like that. But the act of letting this political thing construct somebody else's salvation in your own mind is just ludicrous.
Absolutely. Like, how dare you question someone else's salvation based on who they vote for?
Yeah.
Like, you don't know. You don't know.
Yeah, it's very silly, and certainly was something that Gons and I tried to speak out against in our own way without returning the same sort of vitriol or perpetuating the same kind of ugliness that can be involved in that. But yeah, no, that was a huge bummer. And obviously Pizzagate is a huge bummer as well. And those are the times that, more than anything, it's good to take a little break sometimes.
I did. I went and revisited Psych.
Wow. Well, there you go. I was more of a Scrubs guy myself, but.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
No. I don't know. I never watched it.
I know. I'm like, I don't really understand the conflict there, but hey, I'll yes and this.
It just seemed like an appropriate response.
Well, okay. So how about this? How about you be juicing, girl?
So I have a great juicing story for you.
God. Yes, it's been a few episodes since we've had a great juicing story.
So I don't actually juice anymore, but there was a few years ago. That's
okay. Jesus still loves you.
I had to sell my juicer.
Jesus is with you outside of your juicing.
Thank you. I had to sell my juicer for rent money.
Oh, gosh.
And in no way, shape, or form is that a lie.
Oh, no. Oh, now I'm the butthead, huh? Oh, now I'm the jerk in the conversation.
Now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
That's fine. Oh, how much did you actually sell your juicer for? This is good. We need to talk about investing in juicing for financial gain.
I lost money on it. It's not a profitable venture. I sold it to my friend for $30.
Not a proven industry.
No. When they end up in the thrift store, not a profitable industry.
No, and there are so many in the thrift store.
I can't find any. I've taken your word. Maybe Texans aren't big juicers. You are in California.
Or maybe they're bigger juicers and they hold on to that juicy gold.
Touche.
But I will say you could come to my side of the country, load up on $9 juicers, then cruise over to Texas, sell them all for $30 to your friends.
Wow, you are an entrepreneur.
Yes, ma'am. Evil genius.
Why don't you ship them to me? It would probably cost more to get a plane ticket.
It costs $30 just to ship it.
It would cost $300 just to fly out there.
Yeah, we could work this out. Hold on. So if you fly out for $300 bucks,
you pick up the juicers.
Pick up the juicers. You can.
Well, you got to collect them.
That's fine. I'll show you where they are, and then
that's fine.
Let's say we spend $1,000 on shipping. Let's see.
Can I just bring a suitcase and bring it back in there?
Yeah, well, we got to figure out the volume. This is a volume gain at this point, because that $21 per juicer. Yeah, you're gonna need about 15,000 juicers to make that worth it. California
is a big state.
That's true, and so is Texas. There's always room for more juicers over there.
Texas is bigger. Okay, we'll revisit this later.
Yeah. So you work at home, you're sitting in your pajamas. That's got to be pretty tough to try to do well with your body.
Just call it out.
I'm talking from experience.
Wow. But let me tell you my juicing story first.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I thought that was the juicing story.
No.
Okay.
No.
That was a good one though. All right.
Thanks.
What's the next one?
So I juiced a few years back. Big avid juicer, and I lived in this little one room studio apartment in this old apartment, and I was building a loft bed, and it was super loud, and my downstairs neighbor already hated me, and so after I was done building the loft, to make peace, took him a giant big gulp cup of juice.
Was it in an actual big gulp cup?
It was in a Dickies cup, which is a Q joint out here.
So pretty much the same thing.
Pretty much the same.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I took it down to him. I was like, I'm sorry. Please accept this giant cup of fresh squeezed juice as my apology.
Gosh, in a Dickies cup.
And he just looked at me. He came to the door with his girlfriend who happened to be in town, and they were trying to have and I'm building this loft upstairs, and I try to make it right with a giant cup of fresh squeezed
Oh my
juice.
gosh. Did he place the same value on that cup of juice as you did?
He looked at me like I was insane. What
That
are you even like? He was already so pissed at me because I was building a loft on top of his apartment, and to just try to make it right. And his girlfriend was like, they were looking at each other like, who is this crazy white girl?
Did you explain to him that the volume of juice that you brought him probably was like $180 at a juice store?
I thought he would appreciate the value of the big cup of juice because he was a fit dude. He was a yoga instructor. Like, I thought that would be an appropriate peace offering for this guy.
Oh my gosh. And
I guarantee you he shut the door and poured it down the sink.
so he did take the juice.
He took it. He
Okay.
did take it with trepidation, fear.
Oh my gosh. Oh man. Some people just don't understand.
They don't.
They just don't understand.
They really, really. That was a lot of fruits and vegetables.
You know what's funny too? Like whenever you ran that juicer, if it was anywhere up to a middle of the road juicer, maybe not a high end one, it probably made as much noise in his apartment than your building of the lawn, your loft. Those things are so loud.
Oh my god!
It sounds like a lawnmower. Yeah.
Yes.
Like,
you're so right.
Nobody's ever complained, but I definitely, without fail, every single time, and this is not a joke, every time I do run my juicer, I feel guilty for people around, like everybody in the apartments around me.
I'm so sorry.
I'm like, I gotta make it quick. Maybe they won't notice.
Yeah.
I hope they think I'm vacuuming.
Which we all know you're not.
No, nobody's buying it.
No. Yeah. I too have argued with God about cleaning. I called him sexist once.
You called God sexist?
He was like, you really need to start cleaning your room and your apartment. I was like, but it's the natural state of the universe. It's disorder.
Chaos and entropy.
Exactly. And he's like, seriously, Jen, you really, like, I'm the god of order. Okay, that's cool. I was like, okay, well, how about this? My husband will clean and do the laundry. And he's like, so you're the wife? Like, don't you think that's kind of like, as a mom, like maybe your responsibility? And I was like, that is so sexist, God. Like,
here's something that's helped me in my journey with this keeping clean. And I may have mentioned this, and I may have mentioned it on an episode that's not posted yet. So forgive me, everybody, if this is a repeat. It's hard for me to keep track. But I've actually taken, and you know, I'm not trying to be funny, but this is the real deal. I've actually worked into my daily schedule, the daily things I do, reading my Bible, reading other books, doing my prayer time. Right after all those things on my to-do list is a little thing I like to call tidy time. And
clean up.
Yeah. And I don't think that if I didn't call it tidy time, I don't think I would do it. I think
because how can you not do tidy time?
It's just so fun. It's fun and flirty is what it is.
It's fun and flirty. Do you have a theme song?
No, I haven't written a theme song, but I do put on. Okay, and I'm realizing I think I have said this before. I put on "Jump in the Line."
Yes.
Yes, Harry Belafonte.
Yes,
Jump in the
Absolutely.
Line. You put
From
on Jump in the
Beetlejuice.
Line. Yes, from Beetlejuice. I put that on repeat, and I put on a 30-minute timer on my phone, and I just go for it. And, I don't have to do anything gnarly. I rarely do things like mopping or sweeping or vacuuming because there's enough detritus that needs to be cleaned up without getting that intense. It takes a half hour a day scheduled just to maintain livability. This is not gaining progress, by the way. This is not
just plateauing.
Yes,
Like,
this is to keep a steady track of cleanliness in my home. So I invite everyone to work tidy time into their schedule. I recommend putting on Jump in the Line. It's high energy. It's catchy.
it is.
It keeps you moving, and do it. You can also do it with podcasts. That's a secondary option.
You could. It's not as motivating.
No.
It's really not. Because then you want to stop and listen, and then you're like, oh, did I miss something? I got to go back.
No, and end it.
It's really distracting.
And you end it at 30 minutes. That's another problem with podcasting is with listening to podcasts, you'll lose track of time.
Except for News Talk.
Yeah. Hey, there you go. Listen to Canary Cry News Talk. Subscribe on iTunes. Start that sucker up. It's 29 minutes, and you just clean for 29 minutes. And the key is you have to stop. You can't keep going past 30 minutes, or else you'll lose all desire to do it. You absolutely cut yourself off at 30 minutes.
That's good because, my office is in my bedroom.
Yeah.
And so it can get messy. It can get a little hairy.
And it can get overwhelming. It can get overwhelming. My bedroom currently right now it's been better. It's not horrible, but it's not good. A normal person would think that a squatter is living in there. But now I don't have to be like, okay, today I clean my room, and then look at it and be like, tomorrow I clean my room.
Every day. That is the story of my life. I'm going to do it today.
30 minutes. That's it. It's just a time. You think of it as more like, that's what's scheduled. This is how I spend the half hour. It's not about accomplishing anything. It's about spending that time.
Is it the same time every day?
No, not for me. I try to do it in the morning right after doing some prayers. But doing some prayers, praying, which includes prayers. I don't have a list of prayers. But not that there's anything wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with prayer lists.
Nothing wrong with that. So I try to do it in the morning. Sometimes I don't. Really just the times when I'd be like, oh, I'm going to sit down and watch TV. Those are usually like hour and a half, 2 hour blocks of time in your day where you're like, oh, I got some time. I'm going to just kind of lay around for a little bit. And you just do tidy time. It's 30 minutes and you still have time for scrubs. That's what I'm saying. It's not bad.
That sounds like,
yeah.
Thanks, Basil.
You're welcome.
That's a good piece of advice because it's overwhelming.
It is. Trust me, I get it.
I'm glad you feel my pain.
I do, and I think more people out there do. And I just encourage you, give it a try. We're on this journey together. We're making it better.
Yes,
we're doing it.
But to answer your question of how does the working at home in my pajamas, I do intentional things. I live on the 3rd story, so I always take the stairs. But I still have really bad back pain. So working out just is not it is walking. I can walk, but it hurts.
I get it. I totally get it.
And so I started trying to do a high fat protein, low carb diet thing. And I tweaked it just a little bit. So now I'm doing a high fat, high carb diet. And that's really not working out too well.
Here's something I'll say. And I've mentioned this before, but everybody loves hearing me repeat myself. Kind of like me and my dad. My dad, he's probably listening to this. What is it? Oh, Sam from the former God's Property Radio good friend of myself and good friends of the show, and he has an episode, obviously. And I think he told us on the episode about Whole30. It's this program. I didn't have to buy anything. I didn't even read the book. I didn't do anything. I just did the Whole30. It takes a pretty good amount of willpower for the first week, but by the second week, you're just cruising. You're doing it. It saved my year last year. And I highly recommend giving it a try.
I did. I started to attempt it.
Yeah.
And at this point, I've cut all processed food out of my diet.
Hey,
like
that's
I don't
start.
Eat sugar, and except for honey, because I love honey.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I try not to eat bread, but I like dairy a lot.
Yeah,
I
it's
love
tough,
cheese.
Man. Cheese, melty, beautiful, holy, divine cheese. It's good
so
stuff.
Good.
Good nectar.
So good. So yeah, I mean, it's a process.
You're
I'm
doing
working
what you
on
can.
it. Exactly, Basil. I'm doing what I can.
You do what you can, not what you can't.
Exactly. Trying not to beat myself up if I slip,
Yeah.
But it's, it could be a lot worse. I don't snack all day. That is definitely one thing. I have self-control. Like being 2 feet from the kitchen is very tempting, but I don't keep things in the house that are tempting.
Yeah. Yep. And Yep. Bread was a big one for me.
Ugh.
I used to keep it in the house and be like, oh, I'm not going to eat it. That's not a thing. If there's bread in the house, you eat it.
I've actually been good. My mom keeps it and eats it, and I don't.
Wow. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
I can see now that your struggles in life have made you a better bread avoider.
Yes. My willpower is getting stronger, and my self-control.
There you go.
The fruits, they're getting stronger.
Yep. Fruits of the spirit and fruits of the tummy.
Oh, it's so good.
Jen, thank you so much. This is definitely one of our longer episodes, but it was 100% all the way through good stuff. So I'm so happy that we finally got to make this happen. And, hey, there you go. Is there any last thing you want to say before we go our separate ways?
Can I try out a tagline?
Yes, please do.
So it's still kind of a work in progress, but something along the lines of when the world starts to become an annoy-spiracy, go listen to the joy-spiracy.
That actually might be the best one so far. Oh, that's pretty good. I'm going to try that out. I'm going to try it out on this episode.
Okay.
When I record the outro, you can hear it then.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, Jen.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
It truly has.
Awesome.
It truly has. I'm super glad, and thank you so much for coming on. And I just know for a fact the listeners are going to be so touched and entertained and and just overall happy and joyful that they got to spend this time with us. It's so fun.
Yay.
All right. Well, you get some sleep, Jen.
I will.
All right. Have fun in Texas. Watch out for Texas danger.
Tornadoes.
That might have been the most California thing I've ever said.
Oh my God, California. Just go.
All right. Talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Well, there you have it, guys. Hope you enjoyed that conversation. Really, just an incredible story, incredible life story, and I hope she writes that book. We gotta get that book out. Maybe we'll sell it or something, or give it away, or throw it at people in the streets, but in a nice way. Yeah. Fun little fact here. Actually, some people ask me how much editing I do during the podcast. Almost none. This conversation, there was a potty break in the middle, so I cut that out. I hope, unless I forgot. I think I did. Well, We're really authentic around here. And like I said at the beginning of the podcast, hey, if anybody wants to come on the show, now's your time. If you've been wondering or thinking about it, or you open up the email, you've got something in your drafts folder that's a letter to me about wanting to be on the show, and you just can't get the courage to send it, go ahead and do it. We got to get you on here. Don't worry if your story doesn't include skydiving and lion taming and things like that. We just, we'll find it. We'll find it. It's not about telling stories. Well, it's about having conversations. And so there you go. All right. One more time, thanks, Jennifer, for supporting the Patreon page. Actually, I looked it up. She actually increased her original pledge. So thank you for that increase, Jennifer. Thank you so much. And once again, send me that info. Calling you out, girl. All right. So if you want to support the Patreon page, go to patreon.com and you can do that. Search for the Joyspiracy Theory. Also, on whatever app that you listen to this show on, please consider leaving a rating or a review. A rating is like a star system. Well, not like a star system in space, but one star is like, oh, this show is so horrible. I listened to it, and it's like Basil was laying an egg on my head. Yep, that's what we're going with. Or a 5-star is like, oh, Basil didn't lay an egg on my head. In fact, he made me a delicious omelet and brought it to me in bed. That's how great this podcast was. And then a review is just telling people those sentiments regarding eggs. And remember, when the world starts to become a Noyspiracy, go listen to the Joyspiracy. Good one, Jen. That was a good one. Bye.
Joyspiracy Theory. It's a real fun show to listen to. Joyspiracy Theory. It's a real fun show to listen to. Not joke.